Hey, what's good? Jerry Lee Brice is an animator that has an IMDB page that's pretty bonkers. He worked on Walt Disney's Oliver and Company, Back to Neverland, and Little Mermaid. He's also worked on King of the Hill, Al Roker's Weather Hunters, as well as a bunch of his own animated projects. C4 Explosives joins me in this conversation with Jerry Lee Brice. Before we get into it, remember to go to coconutjustice.com to get you some clothes that I think would look good on you. Let's go. When I grew up, I wanted to be an animator because I was watching Disney movies and stuff like that. I went out, well, we went out and we found someone who can help us or help me specifically, selfishly speaking, reach my childhood dreams. You guys, welcome to the show, Jerry Brice.
Yes. Jerry Lee Brice.
Jerry Lee Brice. Jerry Lee. Yeah, keep me right.
That's what it says. Right. Jerry Brice. All good.
Jerry Lee Brice.
Right.
Hey, come to the front of the class. One and only C4 Explosives.
What's cracking, everybody? It's an honor as usual to be on a part of this. Thank you, Jerry, for coming on the show.
So this is probably, Jerry, you're probably the only thing that's going to make me feel good. Last night, my Bears got that little, they hung a L around our necks last night, and we gotta shake that off. So you're going to talk to me for however long about being an animator, about reaching for your dreams. Make me heal my heart, Jerry.
Well, I'm gonna say this about Chicago Bear. You know, my partner. You talking about the Weather Hunters? This latest show, my PBS program, but the person who brought me on the project, Bill Schultz, whatever, was the original executive producer, showrunner, etc. He's from Chicago, so I know he was hurting. You know, he's the one who got me to buy the NFL was a prime ticket with all that. You know, he's like, I watch the games from Chicago, don't have to be there. You know what I mean? But who
do you watch sports and stuff at all?
Oh yeah, I do. Definitely.
Who are your teams? Like when you go to throw on some colors, who are you wearing?
Well, you know, all the teams from San Diego, if it's baseball, it's Padres, you know, like, you know, unfortunately, I used to be like 100% like hardcore San Diego Chargers, you know, fan, like day up, whatever, hated the Raiders, all that, you know, but they left San Diego and went to Los Angeles, which I do live and work in also, but I hated that. You know, LA hates them. So it's like, you know, I don't know, man. I like watch the teams that are kind of winning. I like Patrick Mahomes. I like, you know, the Ravens. I like, you know, I watch the underdog teams, man.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, you know, as far as football, which is what I'm, you know, watching now, I like, I just kind of like the teams that are entertaining. Definitely like the Rams, though. Definitely follow the Rams. Obviously, it's like, you know, Southern California, West Coast.
Yeah, their quarterback is no joke. He's solid. He can't run for shit, but
no,
he's solid.
I follow Detroit a lot too. I like Detroit for the
Detroit is dope.
The Lions are good.
Detroit is dope.
That's why we took their head coach.
Their offensive coach. We kneecapped him, boy.
You know what it was Jared Goff. He used to be the quarterback for the LA Rams, and he went to the Super Bowl run, and then they lost, and then they traded him to Detroit. I thought that sucked, man. I thought that was horrible.
Yeah.
So I was like riding for him, and you know, I wasn't against, you know, the Ram, but I thought that sucked, right? So I'm riding for the underdog, and I really like how he reinvigorated the Detroit team.
Yeah. You're originally from San Diego?
Yes, native.
Yeah, born and raised.
Born and raised, probably gonna die.
So when people talk about why do people want to go to San Diego, what's like your top 2 to 3 things to rep San Diego?
See, this is complicated because, you know, I mean, you gotta understand, I really love San Diego, so you gotta understand, like, do I really want to encourage a lot of people from the Midwest to move out here? Taxes are so high.
San Diego's terrible.
Straight up, you know. Like, I don't know, man. You know. Yeah.
It's California. You guys would hate it.
Yeah, man. You know, you know what I mean? But it's you know, because I love the diversity out here. That's the first thing people go ahead. I love the diversity. Even under our Republicans, you know, people don't understand this is a Republican stronghold. My brother used to say San Diego is like Atlanta for white folks. You know, basically, because it's like, dog, you know, gas lamp during the 80s, 90s. It's beautiful. Lots of fun. You know, I personally live about 10 minutes from the border. This is going to get controversial because all this BS about the border. Like San Diego, but you know, like I don't know what kind of border the rest of America is having nightmares about, but you know, I don't care. You know, like back in the day, you know, because we used to live on the border. Back in the day, it's like, yeah, we had immigration, whatever. It's like, you know, we had, if people were crossing the border, what you would do is like, you know, give them water and stuff and point them in the right direction. You know, it's a misdemeanor. It wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
All this
and for the record, it's still a misdemeanor.
Yeah, it is still a misdemeanor. And thank you. You know, so all this and
it's against law. They're treating you.
Wilson, I'm gonna tell my dad.
It's the same as a speeding ticket.
Yeah, it's no big deal. I'm telling the people, and I'm addressing, you know, and I get race. I'm addressing the black, white, brown people, Democrats, you know, Republicans in San Diego, like the 70s, 80s, 90s. You know, Pete Wilson was a friend of my father. My father is a you know, we used to be in land develop, you know, commercial developer here, you know, so we had crews and stuff. And I'm going to tell you, it's like crazy to really think about like running any kind of business. You know, Pete Wilson had like an au pair, you know, domestic help, you know, like it's very, very crazy. I don't know if you've been to San Diego.
I lived out there for about 3-4 months.
Look on the map. So don't it kind of look like Chula Vista? You know, all the, you know, there's all the names in San Marcos. It's like, you know,
it's all Spanish.
Exactly.
All of it. And
when I grew up, man, that's all my neighbors. I live in the hood, you know, the black part of town. So it was like Mexican, blacks, Filipinos. You know, yeah, white people, obviously, because they're 85%, but it was like basically where we're at, the Red Line district, and
yeah,
you know, that's
and
like
then you can be taking,
like it's crazy. That's crazy. Nobody out here had a problem. Pete Wilson, like all that ridiculous, like you lose respect for somebody because they're doing something that you know they're not about.
Yeah,
you know, and he was really going hard and mess with it, but really in his realistic life, it wasn't. I never seen that.
Yeah,
you know, because he had Mexican, you know what I mean, and then my father. It's crazy though. So, you know, long story short, it's like I don't get it, dude. It's like I don't want to, you know, X myself out, but I think it's horrible the way we have to deal with the racism. You know, it's just because of Mexican people, man.
Yeah, and people don't understand just how seamless it is at the San Diego border. We have people from Mexico that will take the train into San Diego to go to work, and then they take the train right the fuck back to Mexico when they're done.
Dude, I taught here at college, and a large percentage of my students were commuting from Tijuana.
Yeah.
You know, California every day.
Yeah.
And it's not like, you know, and it's not like I would probably cross the border just generally like 2 times a week, you know?
Yeah.
It's just a, you know, it's a community out here. It's no issue. That all this ridiculous. I don't, you know, this is horrible. You know, it probably get us killed, but no. The last thing we need is a wall. What we need to do is have an easier way for that's a, you know, that's at least 10% of our consumer, you know, customers. You know what I mean? Like,
even to go deeper, it's like Trump says that civil rights led to white people being treated very badly.
Yeah.
Like he just said that yesterday.
Yeah, right. I mean, but you got to kind of look at it like where from a white supremacist point of view.
Right.
Because it's easy for us to kind of take our point. You got to look at it from a person that looks at like an intelligent black man or Mexican people or minority. Because really it's a white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. Because I tell my you know, my people of color friends, you know what I mean, that are not black, you know, like, okay, and they look white. Okay, you do have an opportunity now, Chaldeans, but you do have an opportunity, maybe even the Jewish people, you know, you do have an opportunity because basically you're white. You do have an opportunity to look white, act white, whatever, but you know, but when it really comes down to it, you know, I know white people I grew up with, you know, they're talking about white Anglo-Saxon Protestants.
Mm-hmm.
So once they get rid of all the brown people, whatever, the obvious people, they're going to come for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because they hate you too. Because I
Yes,
tell my
that's
Mexican friends, you know, like you mentioned the real estate thing. I know in Southern California, you know, because my family's from down south, we kind of like kid ourselves. We're not south of the Mason-Dixon line and all this kind of stuff. We didn't have Jim Crow. What we did have was a worse than that. We had racial covenants on real estate sales. You know, and this is really what controls your bigotry in America. You know, redlining. You know, my granddaddy and I, we, you know, where my grandparents' house was, it's like, you know, there was a racial covenant where like the couldn't sell it to blacks, Mexicans, you know, Italians, Jews, you know. But you know, there was a provision that Mexicans were considered white in the U.S. Constitution, because the first civil rights education thing, you know, like it wasn't that Brown versus whatever. It was a case that happened here in Lemon Grove. Deal with the Mexican students, man, you know, but you know, within that case, that was the first civil rights education case that kind of changed the game. You know, a lot of people don't know that, but you know, look it up. But really, what it came down to, you know, was that the Supreme Court, you know, said, well, you know, Mexican people are designated as white people in America.
They probably wanted those votes.
Yeah, I mean, look that up. You know, they were going hard on Jews, Italians, blacks. You know, yeah. The whole Mexican thing, you know, and that whole discrimination thing is like, well, they're considered white in America. You know, a lot of my Mexican friends didn't know that. Look it up. It sucks, but I would say that, you know, all the issues that white folks or these so-called conservatives are having against Mexicans, given, you know, what I know about the law, is 100% racially motivated. Yeah. As we all know, and it's not, you know, and I hate to, because I hate to even comment on that, because I spent a lot of my life commenting on this, and the world is worse now than ever.
Yeah.
So I tend to not.
It's better, but worse, right? So it's more.
I don't know. No, it's horrible.
I think it's
now
more extreme.
Yeah, it's more extreme. It's like the extremists are running the you know, make, you know, I mean, and the only reason why I hesitate, because the one thing I do know is like I tell some of my Republican friends, I don't mind disagreeing with somebody. I grew up in a hardcore Republican city. You know, we had racial issues, whatever. You know, but I don't mind arguing with people or having, you know, like
constructive debates.
Constructive debate, not fighting you, but what I know of these Ku Klux Klan, Nazis, all these extremists, they're here to hurt you. You know, Trump 100%. And them, yeah, that's about violence. So that's about, you know, I grew up in the hood, so I know about street violence. And I'm not going to, you know, tip my hand on any of that. You know, I don't want to, you know, urge it on, but I understand it's like, you know,
right.
You live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Exactly. You got to be careful. You got to be careful what you cook for dinner, because you got to eat it.
You ever shoot somebody, you know, you can't take that back. You know, a lot of these people talk. A lot of the cowards that are in ICE or whatever, or being, you know, all these white supremacist groups that are being supported by, you know, the Trump regime right now. We know that these are cowards. You know, they're running around in the jungles, you know, with the black
juicing each other up.
You know, they're looking violent, you know, having ugly faces and stuff. It's like, okay, cool, whatever. You know, I'm not, you know, I like to tell people, it's like, I don't like to fake it. You know, I'm not like, you know, I'm not out here, you know, I'm not thugnificent out here. I'm not, you know, shooting, robbing, killing people.
Right.
You know, but I am a 61-year-old black man, but, you know, I know a lot of people, you know what I'm saying? I know how.
But for 61 years, have you ever robbed a bank? Have you ever sold drugs? Have you ever?
I don't have a police record like that.
Thank you.
But you know, it's almost, you know.
So basically, not all of us
glorify stuff like that. Though.
Yeah, but not all of us sell drugs. Not all of us are out here raping chicks.
Rape? No. Well, that's bizarre.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, not all of us are doing
you know,
that.
hell no. Rape.
Yeah. So you spent most of your life in San Diego. What was it like? What was it like growing up in San Diego?
It's like, you know,
Back in
growing
the
up in
day.
San Diego in the 60s, 70s, dude, it was like, you know, you got to kind of look at it like there wasn't a whole lot of civil rights. It was like I was like the only black kid, you know, in my elementary school.
How crazy is that?
You know, and it was like I used to get I have a lot of those kids are still a lot of my friends, but you know, I used to there was a lot of so I had to like take the city buses from the black part of town, you know, right downtown and deal with a lot of you know, unseemly you know, getting the bus transfer, you know, and then you know, like my mornings getting to school, you know, then a lot of the older people didn't really like the fact that a black person, a black kid was going to school in those, you know, traditionally all white schools. So that was a problem for me. So I got slapped by on the bus by, you know, old white, you know, adults and stuff like that. Got a lot of problems like that. But going to school though, you know, I had a lot of friends at school and you know, cool to celebrate. You know, and then it's actually like later on in life, you know, talking to some of my friends, you know, like a lot of those kids, you know, we're still friends, but they were from that neighborhood. And it was like all white neighborhood, so they didn't, you know, you know, I was in boys, what you call it, Cub Scouts and all these things with them. They just knew me from school. They didn't, they thought my parents were dropping me off at school. It's one thing we found out later on in life. They didn't understand that I was just given a city bus pass, and my grandmother basically, you know, to show, you know, she kind of like showed me the bus route, and then I had to take the bus route, you know, and she kind of like go with me, but she kind of, I saw her, she was driving behind the bus, and it was like, you know, it wasn't a good, I had to deal with a lot of adults and a lot of problems, but with that, I got to understand how to negotiate, you know, my ways out of problems, and I wasn't, you know, I had to run away from a lot of stuff, and I had to survive. Amidst a lot of 100%, they were just racially motivated issues because there wasn't a lot of black kids in that part of town. I was alone. And basically, you know, I don't know if you look at like what was happening in America in the 1970s or late 60s with forced busing back in Boston, all that fighting and stuff. So they got a lot of press. San Diego was similar situation, but we didn't get a lot of press and publicity, and we didn't get a lot of support. My brothers and sisters, I have like had like two sisters and one brother, and they went to the elementary school in our neighborhood. It's all black, you know. I was bused to school across town because what my parents saw was inferior education. That they were receiving at this elementary school. So, you know, I had to get you know, they kind of fake, you know, I had to get an inner district pass to go to this Henry Clay Elementary School, which now, like you talk about it, they changed the name of it, but it was like all white school. Now it's like highly integrated.
We have that
with that.
We have that situation happen in Chicago too. I went to high school with so many kids that had to take the back in the day we called it the green limousine. They had to take the green limousine to school, right? And then you'd see your kid, you know, there's certain kids that you would play with after school, and then there's other kids that you just knew at school because you didn't realize that they lived like 10 miles away in a completely different neighborhood.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And I think that was a situation that a lot of my friends, you know, we're still friends. They come to realize that. I mean, I had a when I turned 10 years old, I had a birthday party at my house, and I invited the kids from school, and I'm very excited. And some of them came, and then we still talk about that to this day. But then some of them didn't come. You know,
hell no, there's nervous going out there.
But I didn't, you know, at the time I didn't realize it. I was like, now it's like a lot of their parents didn't let them come. But the kids did come to have fun, you know what I mean? But,
they saw the invite where that address was at. They were like, nah, we got something to do that day.
But literally, you know, I lived on the black part. It was like that, you know, 60 in the late, I'm talking 68, 69, 70, 71, 72. You know, so it was people, you know, it was just a reality. And being in Southern California, I think across the country, there was just an assumption that we didn't have all that going on. You know, you had all that going on, but it was like, you know, it's like you were kind of by yourself.
Yeah.
My wife too. Like my wife, I talk to my. We'll talk to our kids, my wife and I, and then my son's like, oh, I need a ride to the high school. I'm like, you can ride your bike there because it's like 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, oh, it's like raining. I'm like, yeah, go. Like, cause it's not that difficult. Like, and then my
Right.
wife is like, do you know I took like 2 buses? I had to jump on the L, and I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get where I gotta go, and then I come back and do the reverse, and I get home at like 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And but that was the reality. We're walking around in the streets by ourselves when it's dark, and you know what I'm saying. No matter the conditions, 6 feet of snow, we're out there handling business and got done what we got to get done.
Well, the kids that grew up in LA, because I had cousins in LA, they had it worse, you know, because then it was like forced busing, you know, they were like literally going from Inglewood, South Central LA, Compton, you know, like 40, 50 miles way across town to North Hollywood to Grant, you know, it's a whole different situation. That's how it was. That was like worse, you know. That was worse because and then it was like LA just in general, just going to Centennial, you had like thousands and thousands of students compared to like, you know, maybe we had like a couple hundred students at our high school, you
right?
know?
Like
so
there's
I'm
some
saying,
schools.
so I didn't have it great. And I thought, okay, you know, what was me, whatever. But yeah, you know, when you go to college and stuff like that, but I did get rid. What I do want to preface that is like, okay, I did kind of have it like rough like that, whatever. But you know, I kind of internalized everything, and obviously I was an artist, so I had like two choices: I can gang bang, and you know, we gonna get back at these motherfuckers, or I become like academically excellent, you know, or excel like that. So, you know, I mean, it's like I grew up in the church too, right? You know what I'm saying? So I chose the safe route. So I became I excelled academically. So I was able to graduate high school early and go to college early.
Nice.
You know,
were
so
your parents super strict?
I don't know about, you know, I mean, see, I don't want to put the whole strict thing, you know, in your generation probably would be like, yeah, they were strict, they were religious.
We're close. I was introduced to the world in 72. I was introduced into the world at 72. They were still whipping our ass with wooden spoons and stuff.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to go there because then it's like, okay, that's like child abuse, but it was like that, dude. These are like Southern people from the South, you know.
Sure.
And we grew up in the Church of God in Christ, so it's like they had you know, rules.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, house rules that to obey and stuff. I can't and that's, and I had discipline, a lot of discipline.
Yeah.
And, like you're saying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, as a, you know, growing up, it's like you want to avoid all that. So again, it's like just maybe my personality. I just try to avoid a whole lot of stuff. I did get into trouble and stuff like that, but I wasn't the worst, you know, kid like that. But I managed all that, you know. And it's like I just noticed like I got good grades, you get less trouble, you get more tension from the adults, you get more tension from the school system, you get more opportunities, you know.
Yeah,
that's just
positive phrase too. Yeah. It means a lot.
Even at church, you know, like we went to Sunday school, choir, you know, like it was y'all probably looking at strict, but you know, back in the day, kind of looking at like you know anything about the Black community. Church was a big thing, man. You know, we had choir competitions, you know, during the week. And
still is.
And all I can say is this is like a lot of people, because I know it's like I got a friend of my best friend, Fellas. He's, you know, Muslim, whatever, the whole night. You know, he had a whole argument, you know, and I get it against the Christian church, whatever, white Jesus, all this stuff. I'm not saying I didn't necessarily say Jesus was white. You know what I mean? You know, so I'm just saying, you know,
he wasn't.
We got Bible. I get it. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like our church got picketed by the Muslims because we have murals of the Last Supper, and it was all white people. But this was like 1970, so I was like, these were friends of mine. You know? I know all these people. Like, what's the problem? But you know, we had no awareness of that. It's just like the way, you know. Now I get it, so I'm not judging nobody. So, but what I do like to tell people is like, you know, I like to say whatever works, dude. It's like, I know this, man. It's like that helped a lot of my friends because I could see the brothers that had no kind of pressure like that, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of, you know, okay, you understand Southern California. You know what I mean? Like, you know about, you heard about, you know, the you know, the street violence, the gang, you know, all that stuff. You know, all that rape shit, I don't know anything about that. That's all. But all the gang violence, all that, the drug dealing, all that killing. Yeah, you understand that, right? So what we was trying to survive. So it's like I can't lie, you know. I am aware of all that, and you know, I'm aware of this.
Yeah.
Okay? And had to deal with all that. And I'm like, I just can say that we just had to survive it. I'm just rather be a survivor.
So while you're going through all this survival, when was it that you just started to draw? And is that your way as an outlet to get, to kind of encompass some of that, but like trying to block some of that out?
Nah, well, okay, I don't want to go there. But, it was more of a natural thing. I always would draw and doodle. Growing up as a kid, and it's just a natural progression of your friends looking at your drawings or doodles. Like I tell one of my friends, from the sandbox, whatever, and they just, liking it, and I like that reaction. So, do it more, get more reaction for your friends. Like my friends still, they encourage me to keep going because it's like that's it, man. I kind of like the reactions or the way my drawings or doodles or illustrations or just.
Did you draw pictures of all the cute girls?
Still do.
That's
what we do at bars, and
that's how you get them.
That's how you get them. Like I'm on the. I can't say. Well, I'm on the downside of all that. But yeah, that used to be the program. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah! That's the best pickup line ever.
I'm gonna tell you too. Like the sister on that. You know what I mean? Because I used to be the dude that would go to Fridays, or I used to kick. I kind of still do because I'm, like the younger generation don't like to go out and drink anymore. So somebody got to, and in San Diego, I mean, I'll draw whoever. Drawing Ariel. I know in San Diego, drawing Ariel at a bar, dog used to get me that people loved it. It's like the manager used to invite me like this is why I like San Diego. Like back in the day, managers used to be like, Jerry, I haven't seen you. Please come back. You know what I mean? We like you here. You're drawing these characters. People are buying you drinks. They buy, I used to get that crazy. So yeah, I love it here. But that, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes people do like it, whatever. But yeah, that works. Drawing Ariel and then drawing the person, drawing the girl as a mermaid works.
Yeah. You're killing them, man.
I would practice that. I practice that. You know what I mean? I will. Now, now I'm just saying it's a whole different. Now it's kind of like I want to promote Weather Hunters. So I mean, I'm thinking, okay, now it's like I actually bought 2 of the Weather Hunters games at Barnes and Nobles for Christmas. And while I was buying them, because the lady was kind of kidding me, you got twins or whatever, and I told her no, I'm like, I told her, my role in the show, and they were excited. So, as I was sitting there, I started drawing the Lily character and, some of the people, because a lot of lines right before Christmas. So the people started looking at it and she was holding it up. So I started drawing the other characters for people in line. So some of the people bought more games.
Yeah.
Just as I was waiting to pay. So I saw like the reaction, because what I get is like, with all this artificial intelligence and blah, 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 maybe people don't see that a lot,
Mm-hmm.
They're saying this guy is saying he worked. I could have been lying, whatever, So maybe like while I was telling her that, just I may feel pressure to prove it. They didn't ask me. I just took the pen and it's like did a little simple line drawing, a lily, whatever, and they were like, "Oh, hey." Yeah, we take it for granted. You guys are probably our artists, or I saw your art, whatever. I was telling this one guy on LinkedIn because he said he likes to go to Apple stores and. He's a concept artist and do really nice. And he showed me did really nice, illustrations on these computer there. I said, man, dude, like that's a promotion that they should get behind. I know, Apple Store there, Apple Store Kid was somebody I used to follow, but I'm just saying a guy that's just showing up doing random dope illustration. That's something I would, that's content for YouTube, but that's something people could get behind. Apple should get behind it.
100%.
Yeah. Traffic into their stores, but I know the manager at that Barnes and Noble, they dug that, man. They're asking me to come back and they do that.
Yeah.
We kind of skipped over it because I know if anybody's watching, we're trying to introduce everybody to you. You say you drew Ariel. Let's break that down for a little bit, because I don't think you kind of skipped over it, like I drew Ariel, but like literally you drew Ariel.
Yeah, I worked at Disney Feature Animation on Little Mermaid.
Nice.
I was in an assistant animation department, which is the cleanup animation department. So I was working with Glenn King and a lot of top animators on some of the top animators.
And if you don't know who Glenn Keane is,
like,
Glenn Keane is like the Michael Jordan of animators.
Yeah,
he's that dude.
Yeah, you gotta have like the animation following. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Glenn Keane, Ron Husband. This is all those. It was like a Little Mermaid. Like the movie we had made prior to that was Oliver and Company.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Which was like one of my favorites. It still is. But we all got to know, all these great animators.
Did you ever work with the Blaze Boys? Did you ever work with the Blaze Boys, Aaron Blaze and Travis Blaze?
No.
No.
Oh, wait. And I know you're talking about that Blaze. Guy who did Snow Bear. No, actually, he wasn't working at the studio during the time I was there. He came after.
No, okay.
This deal was like my.
And if you were over here, I think they got their start over in Florida.
Yeah, see, deal is like you gotta understand. I was at Disney like it was 86 to like 90, so I was working on doing the Oliver. During the time they were setting up the Florida studio.
Yeah,
during the time they were developing. This is way. You guys are talking about the 90s. But I will say it's like when they were developing. I did work on the if you've been to the Florida tour, so when there was a tour there of they had the animators there. I was supervising key assistant animator, whatever, on the Walter Cronkite and Robin Williams did a movie, like a documentary called Back to Neverland. So that played at the park for like 15 years. This is why I kind of like event, because this was like one of the more popular, projects that I worked at Disney, and it's like the animators kind of respected a lot because we kind of kicked ass on it artistically.
Yeah.
I made sure of that. You know what I mean? Bruce Smith was the directing animator. Jerry Reese was the director of the project. I don't know if you know all these people. And our crew was just incredible. Was just so it's like when you get a supervisory role at the beginning of a project, like Bruce told me, we can pick our best scenes to work on, which is exactly what we did.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys, Bruce Smith is a creator of the Proud Family. Pretty tremendous.
So
like if I go through his resume, director of Bebe's Kids, that's something we did.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Bebe's Kids was hilarious.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the
so you ended up leaving high school early because you jumped on Brainiac. At the end of high school, what was your decision-making process as to what school you wanted to, or what college you wanted to go to?
Okay, well, let me, so basically it's like, I took the proficiency examination, maybe I was like in the 10th grade, and at 15, so I passed that. So I also took the PSAT test, and I got a really high score. So I took the SAT, so I got a high score. But I was basically like, 14, 15. And so at that time I was underage. And so I wanted to drop out of high school and go to college because I had been, accepted. I took the college entrance exam. So, so prefacing all that. So a lot of this, obviously I was a kid, I was 15, and my parents having me leave home, at that time.
It's a big deal.
Big deal, right? If I had stayed at home and went to Mesa College, and lived at home, it'd probably be easier. But so I had limited choices due to that because it was all about supervision. So I went to the University of Laverne here in Southern California. It was great. I had a good time out there. But I had a cousin that was getting a doctoral degree out there. He's a bishop in the Church of God in Christ, and it was the school was like a Brethren college, it was a church, so this had a lot to do. I don't want to explain my family. It had a lot to do with I was a kid, leaving San Diego, going away to college, and, parents didn't really, I had to kind of get behind that and where was I gonna go and who was gonna be around. So these people at this college had a good plan to watch, make sure I didn't get in trouble. You know what I mean?
I
That's
can
all
see
I
that.
want y'all to know. That,
Yeah.
I was pretty much a minor, So
Because if you're anything like me, Jerry, I lived under a strict roof, and I joined the military I graduated high school early as well, but then I went into the military because I saw that as my out. And boy, when I felt like those reins were loose, I was a mess. I went and did everything all the time.
But see, the deal is when I went there, it's like, okay, I had to get grades to get into the school, like, to pass all those tests. Even at that age, I had to get good grades. So I had to I was pretty dedicated academic student. It wasn't like art wasn't my major and stuff like that. I think I was a business major in marketing. So it was like a rigorous. So I really enjoyed the first semester because when they had me up there, it's like it was a religious college, so we had to go to church every Wednesday or something like that. And they also had like some classes that they required the freshmen to take. So they made me take a class about the religions of the world. So deal is so that kind of like was interesting because you gotta understand it's like at that time I was 15, 16, whatever. I was very religious person, Church of God in Christ, and I had an opinion about other religions that weren't of the Church of God in Christ, and it's like bottom line, my religion is that you were all going to hell. What I mean? Because that's the message that we get, right? Straight up, like,
exactly.
You're going to hell, then you're all going to like Catholic, you're all really going to, and it was like and I wasn't, personally against any of it, but it was like that was what we was taught. That's the message I got. I want to say that they were saying, everybody's going to hell up in Church of God in Christ. But you gotta understand this, you kind of get that, right? If you was even the Baptists of Black Baptists, wearing lipstick, makeup, all that, Church of God in Christ was really, like you would say, strict. Now, I am, since we're talking about my film career, you gotta understand that whole church. I was not allowed to step foot in a movie theater until I went to college. I had never done. I mean, I remember my aunt, and I thought it was bad. My aunt, took me to a Christmas party at a movie theater one year, and we saw a movie that they projected. And I didn't, I didn't know how to feel about it. It was a different experience, but it was That Darn Cat was the first movie.
Oh yeah,
That Darn Cat, right? Disney, Kurt Russell, all that. Projected at a movie theater the first time, and I'll never forget it. Even when she died, I had to mention that because she was like, "Don't tell your parents" and all this kind of thing. And it wasn't a new movie, but I'm just prefacing that because so I never been into a theater. But when I left to go to college, since I was so young at college, everybody was 18. I started hanging out at San Bernardino High School, which was a drag because my sister, my older sister, who went to she was in Loma Linda University. She recently died, but anyway, so I would hang out with her. So I was in Loma Linda, whatever, that's close to San Bernardino. Went to the mall and met some girl, whatever. Ended up hanging out at San Bernardino High School. And then I had a cousin that lived in the neighborhood and happened to, know some girls that I met at the mall that lived across. I ended up hanging out and getting a girlfriend that was, in high school and stuff like that. And, that kind of like put me into while I was in college with the younger generation.
Yeah. So you were going to school for business and marketing.
Yeah.
And the whole time you stayed drawing and you stayed creative as the outlet?
Yes, definitely, because I also took a lot of art classes while I was there, like drawing classes, etc. But I wasn't looking at it like, it's like at the time, I didn't know, I wasn't really being encouraged to delve into the possibility of making it a actual career. The idea was I was going to maybe like, work in some marketing company, maybe, teach or whatever, something like that.
But isn't it funny to think that business and marketing people, the only reason, well, not the only reason, but one of the major reasons, especially in the industry that you were in, business and marketing is useless unless they have the art.
Yeah, we can, you know, like my teacher, you know, I had some really good teachers. You know, one that made a profound promotional marketing teacher. He, you know, he owned the he owned like the large part of the copyright for Gumby.
Mm.
You know, remember Gumby was the stop motion show, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
all that. So, so I knew that. So, you know, he knew a lot of entertainers, and he would bring, you know, he had the guy who played the sheriff from the Dukes of Hazzard as a guest speaker up at our you know what I mean? So he was kind of like in the middle. He was somebody.
You got to meet
really
Roscoe P. Coltrane?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. As he had him up as his guest speaker, you know, at college.
That's cool. Yeah.
In our promotional marketing class, because you know, in college you always have like 6 classes, but you always have maybe 1 or 2 college professors that are so interested you just hang around them and stuff.
Yeah.
And this guy was hella mean, right? Nobody liked him, and so he used to shave his head because he had like cancer on the top of his head, you know. But it was like, okay, like my dad was real mean, you know, to work. My dad was yelling, screaming, so that never fazed me, right? Because I figured out how to work with that. So it's like a person, even nowadays, if somebody acting aggro or ignorant on work, it's like, dude, you're gonna have to go a long way to really rattle me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sometimes your dad just dish you 24/7, embarrassing, you know, like, yeah, like this is not gonna rattle me. I'm not happy.
That's all you got.
Yeah, exactly, you know. So I kind of got into it, but he had like, you know, art clothes. He had wonderful stories about Gumby, man. You know, Gumby and Davy and Goliath, that stop motion show.
Yeah.
One was produced by the Lutheran Church, one was Art Clokey, but the guy had like wonderful stories, and he was our marketing and promotional marketing teacher. So I know I did a animated spot, and you know, he was hardcore business, but he did kind of inspire that whole, you know, like even when I went to Cal Arts, you know, my student films and all my co-students were kind of dissing me, were music videos and commercials. Because those are, you know, even whatever your marketing strategy, your corporate marketing strategy, you know, even like this show, whatever it is, like people are not buying your script, they're buying that artwork. You know, they may like the character, they may love Charlie Brown, but when I buy like the, you know, t-shirt of a character, whatever, it's like, okay, I know this character from all the exploitations and the movies and the books, you know, so that is a combination of writing and visuals, etc. But when I go get that, you know, my daughter, whatever, I don't have a daughter, but if I had a daughter, if you go get that t-shirt or that, you know, that backpack, whatever, they're buying that artwork.
Yeah.
That's a
and really producers nowadays, they hate, like Hollywood, they hate to admit that. That's why this push for all this artificial intelligence, and I'm not going to really speak much on that because I'm an artist myself. You know, people got to do whatever. I mean, I got relatives and cousins. You know, I understand the template animation and people wanting to do it, whatever, and not wanting to actually learn how to do it. You know, it's a whole different thing. You know what I'm saying? So whatever, you know, whatever turns you on. You know.
But at the same time, don't be mad when it's not at the quality that we can produce as humans.
I mean, but I can flip the script, you know, whatever. It's like, you know, I can flip the script. People don't understand. It's like, yeah, like at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, you know, I still want to see what you can do in front of me. You know, like I teach life drawing classes all the time, you know. You know what I mean? We do quick sketches, long sketches, 30-second sketches, sequential sketches, you know, and it's like, I want to see what you can do, you know. Like that's where the, you know, it has a lot to do with my generation, but it has a lot to do with me. You know, that's what turns me in. It's not about how you can shade it and reflect it. And I used to express that to my students. So I would say, you know, now it's like I am impressed with how people can, you know, tonal studies, because, you know, from the time I was teaching at the Art Institute, because used to be hardcore, just line artwork, because, you know, I understand that anybody, you can cover up a lot of mistakes. You know what I mean, with painting and time, you know what I mean? But funk and roll, dog, it's like, you know, I used to work with George Clinton, and George Clinton used to be like, the beauty is in the mistakes. We're not going to throw away anything and use all of it, you know? You know, this obviously we revise everything. That's
the difference between working with a creative and working in the creative industry with all the business people.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, some people,
George
the
Clinton,
business people nowadays, like that's why they're pushing artificial intelligence and trying to, you know, like I just did this TV show. We did 40 half-hour episodes, right? So I'm like one of the main artists. I'm like pretty hardcore in the business because of artistry. And a lot of the business people are in it because they're ledgers and they're really clever, you know, business sharks. Like, you know, they got like they know how to move, you know, like Ponzi, you know, all this kind of stuff, you know, and that's necessary, right?
Exactly.
But generally, even the writers, which is kind of down for a lot of people, you know, in the industry, even in those positions, a lot of them are in it because, you know, doing animation because they failed to be able to penetrate that same position doing live action movies, you know, because you gotta understand they're crashing with the filmmaking and television for a lot of generations was being associated with Tom Cruise or superstar, right? I can't say that I'm any different, right? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Because a lot of my cartoons have to do with celebrities. But you know, so most writers or business people that enter the business, they're wanting to be that live action, you know, you know, they want to deal in that realm. You know, they want to be the person working with those A-list live action celebrities that are real people.
Yeah.
Writers also. So what I find, you know, I used to, you know, if you kind of look at my work in the late 80s and 90s, the stuff that I, you know, created myself, I used to have to convince a lot of writers that, you know, other Black writers, because I'm trying to, you know, be authentically correct, were only having opportunities in Hollywood doing comedy, you know, adult comedy and living color, these kind of things. There was no opportunity for them in children's TV or animation at all. There was just no opportunity at all. You know what I mean? For all kind of reasons, and typically because the people that were that they would have to submit their scripts to, you know, like I, you know, created a show artistically, whatever, at a network, and the head showrunner, you know, network approved showrunner is a person that has had success at writing scripts or being a showrunner on if the show was successful or not, but it was a network run show. And I'm talking like 1989, 90. So if you think back, like how many Black people had that history? Or were even allowed to have that history?
Exactly.
You know, they weren't allowed to have that history because the you know, Norman Lear and all those people, although they were nice folks, whatever liberal as possible, they were pretty hella racist.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, it's that way. And so, you know, trickle that down to animation, you know, because live action people, at least even in those kind of arguments, you're going to get support from real people. When it comes down to what I'm doing in animation, you get discarded. You know, it's like, dude, you should be happy to be drawing.
What was it like? Oh, go ahead, Carl.
You said Norman Lear.
Yeah, I mean, because Norman Lear, like in the set, because I'm, you know, you figure if I'm, you know, in the business in 1985 to 1986, or you know, I'm trying to create, you know, if I'm working on a cartoon, it's cool because you can, you know, just work whatever, you know, some Muzzles or Pac-Man show, whatever, He-Man. I worked on a lot of cartoons. I didn't write it, but you know, I wanted to see myself on screen. Yeah, you know, me and Brew, whatever. You know, let's create some opportunities for ourselves. So I'm doing Black theme, you know, artwork. Like this character I did right here was from a Motown music video. You know, I started doing videos.
Nice.
Independent music videos because I did that in college, and that was like something I can get, you know, I can present something, a proposal to a record label, and they would give me whatever the 20, 30, 40, 50, you know, 70,000, whatever it was, budget, you know, my production company. You know, if I had an insurance policy, then I can hire, you know, my whole staff and crew, and all I had to do was deliver it, you know, for a certain, you know, at a certain time frame, at a certain, you know, cost, with, you know, working with the notes from the record label. You know, I could control that, and it was like there wasn't a whole lot of people trying to keep you out of it. You know, like writing, you know, television and movies. You know, especially like if you were going to attract. If there was a possibility of you attracting a large white audience with it, then that's when you would get a lot of white
funding. Yeah,
well, white funding and whitewashing. Come with that.
Because, because it comes down to, like, if you want to try to take away the racism from the industry,
Mhm.
what they say is we're only going to make things that are going to make a lot of money. And who has a lot of money?
Yeah, white people.
White folks.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be asked to make black and brown content, because black and brown content, number one, there's way more white folks.
Mhm.
And then black and brown content, number one, we have way less people, and two, we have way less money.
Yeah. But I mean, what
that being said, that is the perfect excuse to do racist shit.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm just saying, but what you kind of did, that's one line of thinking.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at entertainment in general. I also kind of got to look at music.
Yeah.
With that same lens.
Yep. Yeah.
Now let's test those arguments with black music. Are black people the major consumers of black music?
No.
Throughout time.
I don't know.
No.
No, let's look at country music, rock, and like all these so-called white music forms. Are not all these forms of music that are quote unquote white, aren't they the product of black music creation?
Yep. So
I look at that. So this is where I'm, because you gotta understand, it's like, like my family made gospel music records, so I understand with that. That's not even a big part of the record music, industry. I understand that we roll black gospel, gospel music, and I see how it affects quote unquote white gospel. I worked at Cefore X, so I mean I don't want to get into racial dynamics and religion. But it's not black church. Look at the Church of God in Christ. Is that not like the biggest black church in America?
Huh.
Look at the numbers.
Yeah.
I got an uncle, we got churches out here in Southern California that are mega churches.
Yeah.
So I understand the black audience.
Sure.
From my church experience. And I understand, like Pete Wilson, like that's how we know him. He had to come to our church to capture that black audience, so I might have a different, so I understand it's like white folks have and God bless them, they've been keeping us out of the decision making dynamic in TV, movies, and films for these racial arguments that really hold no weight. I mean, they can't even, because we start talking about really like what really controls, because I'm a creator. I'm not going to force my competition to accept the winning strategy. Like I hope they continue to be racist, because I'm not. You know what I mean? I'm going to really, feed that beast, and we'll make, and then God, whoever want to make it or not, whatever. Now I'm just seeing like the strength, like I'm just seeing the strength of the series I just dropped, on the PBS. It's like that wasn't really. It was difficult. It was difficult because Al Roker tended to hire a lot of white people to work for him. They hated me because I was really solving a decades-long problem that they had, simply because they were white folks trying to run a black show. And I mean, just sorry, it was had to do it.
That's what I was gonna kind of dig into, like so you're creating a show about minorities, right? Black and brown kids trying to make a difference and do positive things.
Yeah, to sell it to everybody.
Right, and then the people that are funding these are not black and brown people.
No, it's American. But people run it exactly.
So they have their hand in it, and then they start dipping into creative control. Or what's that
they
like?
They
what
dip into creative control. They know they have control of the funds, and then they kind of got to look at like they kind of like they got to make one or two decisions. They can go with success, or they can go with the BS. that we generally see like, shows are like in Living Color. I remember I tried to sell them an animated skit or whatever, and even at its height, and I walked in there and I was kind of like appalled to see that the majority of their writers were white. But you always have like a black figurehead and a bunch of and it's like America. When I walked into the Al Roker situation, I have a lot of white friends. I've been in business for a long time, so my friends are looking at it, God forbid. I mean, it's not anything personal, but they were adults. But I definitely have white friends and black friends that have dynamics of relationships that don't, race don't have an issue. But but basically, I have white friends and I have black friends. And that's his way of the world. A lot of my white friends are more receptive to me working for them than my black friends ever have been. Powerful, but so I would say that. So it's all kind of like you got to kind of look at the arguments on the racial issue, but got to look at it like black people offered me no opportunity. I mean, they probably supported me, but a lot of them, what was our offer? It's the general suspects that you guys know about. Yeah. Y'all didn't know about me. You know what I mean? And I know all these powerful. They wasn't really reaching out to me else. So I get it.
So there's a lot of gatekeeping from them on that.
I can't say the gatekeepers because they can't keep me out. There was no helping. I always felt like this, dude. You look at the brothers that I do know in the industry, all the top black, animators, whatever, the past 20 years. I mean, I don't think any of them could say that Jerry, was never like trying to not get us together to create our own, entity. That's always something that I've always, not only demonstrate, but also promote. But, it wasn't happening because of, unfortunately, egos or personal agendas, and then people really don't know. And then what I also see is like, the difference here is that my family, I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. I'm not going to point fingers. But, it's like I've been in the business since 85, dog. It's like,
the resume is heavy, son.
There's like a lot of couple. I went to Cal Art. There's 2, 3, 4, 5 black people that have had a lot of opportunities and to put some things together even within their industry of opportunities, and that hasn't happened. Our kids still have to come to Hollywood and beg, for jobs. Go to somebody else's neighborhood. I mean, the racial difficulties I had at Disney had nothing to do with being at the studio. It had everything with it being in Burbank and having to drive to and from work.
And then tell them about
what I mean. So I'm just saying, it's like we haven't really been responsible. Like I can point out a whole lot of black people got someone on your show. We've been really independently responsible. We haven't been unified, and there's no black studio that you all can point out to in Hollywood that you can send, that I can, even me being here for the past 40, 50 years, that I can send some kid to talk to somebody like me, and I have to lower themselves, under white supremacy to get their foot in the door for us, and I would say that I regret, and I really apologize to the current generation of black animators and artists that we didn't do that. Yeah, my older generation, we didn't do that because we were all ignorant. Some of us were selfish. Like I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I did the wrong thing. It's like maybe I'm communicating it wrong now. Yeah. I'm 61 now. I mean, I got a lot of heat. I think like I did a pilots back in 1990. I've been steadily putting this thing together, but I guess I haven't really had a lot of support from black. I'm very excited about this NAACP award because I haven't had any acknowledgement really from any black organization. And I'm not really begging for it because it's like, okay, I don't have that pressure, dude. I'm doing things for the people. A lot of black artists, they had this they had a photo about all the profound black artists. They recreated a photo about a day in jazz that was Chicken Heart, so they did New York. Yeah, New York. They didn't ask me to come. My so-called best friends, whatever, or people used to be my best friends. I guess we just past associates now. They put together the photo. I didn't even get invited, And I felt really bad about that. But what I did, come to realize is because when I started commenting on the photo, the people to put it together, they started to DM me and say, hey, man, okay, it wasn't the same without you having, there. Next time we do it, blah, 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 blah. But I'm just saying, I know there's not going to be a next time. And I just got now. I'm glad you guys feel a certain way because, dude, it's like I'm tired of fighting for people that don't fight for me. Yeah. I really felt like that there, and then I can say, well, F all you got, I really felt bad about it. I felt disrespected because I do, I put a lot of my, look at my comic strip, no joke. A lot of stuff I've done has been about moving Black artists forward, you know, and creating within those opportunities, you know, the 85% of the population that is out there have gotten 85% of opportunities from Jerry Brice Productions. Have not ever had to discriminate against anybody. But, you know, 15% of the population definitely needs representation.
Yeah.
So, you know, if
I want to jump on.
If there's only one or two of us in these, you know, Hollywood works in above the line talent and below the line talent.
Yeah.
Below the line talent or everybody gets hired, etc. All the in between, all that stuff I told you about. Above the line talents look like what I did, you know, on the Weather Hunters or what Bruce does, Proud Family, or you know, the people that run Ayanu. You know, we get into those above the line positions on our productions, and even at these network studio net the networks, you know, broadcast networks. There was like more one black person at PBA. I can relate to you. You know, we can kind of help each other out to get in these positions to, you know, maybe not hire just all white folks on our production. Maybe I can have like a diverse crew. You know, it won't be all black people. It'll be a lot of us. You know, it'll be more of us representing, you know, I just like authentic productions, man. You know, if it's a black family show, why are we having all these white people writing, you know,
the black experience,
writing a show about black family culture, and then the white folks you're having, they're all nice people, but you know, just relating to them, I'm probably the only black person they really know. You know, they don't spend time in a black family, and then it's because then I'm always in conversations about how black family life is similar to, you know, your family life, which is probably white or whatever. You know, and in a lot of those conversations, which you know, because I think those are valuable. But then I'm never gonna get, you know, anything like you're saying before we started, it's organic. That's all correct. It's all gonna be research, and it's all gonna be blah blah blah. Like cosplay. But I get black writers, you know, like it was about a black family, you know, all the mothers, all these black women writers that have all these awards and TV is, you know, they can probably write this show a little bit more authentically than somebody that's not of this culture. So it's not about it's about authenticity. And I always tell people, if I'm writing a show about pink, purple dancing elephants, and I have a crew available pink, purple dancing elephant writers that are qualified, I'm gonna hire them. You know,
right. It's more efficient that way.
And then, you know, everybody else around them, because you got to have the world, you know, around your project. So.
Yeah. I wanted to jump back on something that you were talking about, like building up all of this experience and stuff. This is something that happened to me, and if you have something similar, jump in. But I was told growing up, keep your head down and work and do all the projects as much and work as hard as you can and shut up and do all the things, right? Yeah. And then I get to the point where my resume has Disney, HBO, ABC. I have all these folks on my resume. And then I come up here, and now the excuse is your resume is too big. You might want to take some things off. So you don't believe in best man for job. You believe in, not you, but you know, people that are hiring, they believe in someone that they know more than someone who has a proper resume with all these big names on it.
Yeah. So
have you bumped into, in doing the animation thing, have you bumped into that too? Or is it a situation where they can look at your art and they base their decision off your art?
You talk about from somebody. I can tell you when you're looking for from somebody. I can tell you from a point of view of somebody that just had to hire a bunch of people. You know, I hired everybody on the Weather Hunters. Because it sounded like you were asking me about, like, do I have problems as a somebody that's applying for jobs? Not to speak on that. You know, I can say this from my most recent experience with that would be from the hiring, you know, position. And I'm pretty clear with it. If you follow my, you know, postings, I'm pretty, you know, I mean, let's just point, you know, y'all are artists. Let's just say this. This is it. You know, I believe in I believe in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I believe in the strength of relationships. I think Brad Bird even, mentioned this. He's an old friend. It's just like you cannot fake the synergy we had at Disney with that.
And just so you know, Brad Bird is the director. He directed
Family Dog. Oh,
and didn't he do one of the Incredibles?
Yeah, Incredible. That's it. Yeah, Incredible.
Yeah. Like Brad Bird is legit.
Yeah, I worked with him on Family Dog, and we were, he's like,
oh, nice.
He was a buddy of mine from school.
Yeah,
he's a good friend of mine. You know what I mean?
From CalArts.
Chris, but I mean, it was a whole time where it was like, people were, outcasts or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what I mean. So it's like we had a good, still do. I mean, I like him. I haven't seen him in a while, but it was a good relationship. But what was I talking about? You got to kind of what was I talking about? I'm thinking about.
We're talking about you were looking at resumes and making decisions at your.
Yeah, it's like he was saying, like, you can't really fake the kind of synergy and the team, crew kind of effort we had at Disney. You just can't hire a bunch of unknown people that you don't know and that expect it to work. Like that's kind of how it goes down now. I believe in relationships. Woody Allen, he always had an ensemble kind of approach to his cast of characters and writers and groups, and I like I like that, and when I was producing music videos independently, it was a lot of risk. I had a day job. It was a whole lot of risk for me personally, because I took all those jobs on without any production company. My personal finances were at risk. So I didn't want to risk that with hiring a group of people that I didn't know, which kind of would be like what you're saying. If I did look at a lot of, and I would say this, if I did look at a lot of resumes, if I did have open calls for things, you do have to look at resumes.
Yeah.
And it does always make sense to hire the most experienced person. And if I'm looking on paper, I really don't know who you are, but I mean, I can guarantee you, I look at your work, and certain level of work is I could probably guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, you never know. But I just want the person to be, like cinematographers or electricians, or when I'm doing live action things, obviously in an animation crew, it's all artists. So I just want the most. So let's say theoretically, I just want the most proficient person with the best work. Obviously, that's what we work on. But somebody who's had the opportunity and the responsibility of putting together a crew and has had to deal with the fact that I know people flake out at night, even if they are the best person. I don't want to risk that. That's always been the hassle when somebody doesn't come through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I will say this. I generally like to hire people that I know or have been to war with, my schoolmates, definitely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm, I'll say, even with this last thing, like I will say, I have more of an open mind, because I did, hire some people I met on LinkedIn.
Cool.
I got some hassles, and they, this one brother named Brian, ended up being incredible. Like, he's gonna be an incredible director.
Nice.
Nyla Magruder, so I did kind of have to dip into some people that I hadn't worked with. I just really were fans of their work. Saxton Moore, did a logo, and that worked out well. So I can't say that I worked with these people, but I might have had a somewhat of a internet relationship with them.
Sure.
So I was, and then also I want to say this. It's like I was one of those people that would kind of look at like your samples. And if you just showed me a lot of action adventure work, like if you're a storyboard artist or something like that, and like I did a preschool show, I probably wouldn't call you, So,
right.
So I would say this is Kid Brian, right? This not kid, this young, Brian, Anyway, he was like, so he was doing all this Warner Brothers stuff, incredible. So I was like in a hard spot. I needed somebody very, very impressive, because I've been let down, unfortunately. And I was like, man, I really want to call Brian, but man, how am I gonna? I thought I was gonna have to convince him. It's like I was I was always, even with the writers, I was always prepared to not beg them, but you know, like I am good at convincing people to do things. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know, like this big. I thought, you know, so I was really like spending how, you know, because I expected that he wasn't gonna do it because all his samples were like superhero and like tremendous drawings, and it's like, hey, you know, he can storyboard anything. I got that, but I'm always thinking, would he want to? And you know, and I'm not really, you know, I'm an artist, dude. And I'm not, you know, I wasn't even really thinking like if the person, you know, like this is just a gig, he wants the money. I wasn't even thinking that like monetary. I'm thinking like, will he want to do it because for little kids, you know? And so I was like, wasn't gonna call him, but I called him because I really was needed somebody to over, you know what I mean? So I took a roller, you know, and it worked out, man. It's always, I told him even the other day, I said, yeah, that's I would say that's the most profound change, if you know, dealing with any of those things you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, I think I'm addressing that. Just from a hiring position is that, yeah, sometimes I would, you know, first part of my, you know, long reply was, yeah, I kind of, you know, did kind of look at like my friends and relationships only kind of thing. And you know, and I'm not ashamed of that, you know.
Yeah. You know how they say it's not what you know, it's who do you know. But you can know whoever the hell you want, but if you're not prepared for this for the job, like
because
what
I think
becomes important.
Yeah, because if you picked up on what I'm saying, it's like I deal with a lot of artists, so I understand people can draw whatever, but it's all that other stuff. Are they gonna be responsible?
Yeah.
Are they gonna
have the ego? They're gonna have an ego, or are they gonna mesh well? You know, familiarity is cool, but like if you know that guy's an asshole, like, do I really need him right now? Like, do I want to have that in the mix?
Think about that. Think about you're on a crunch, you're on a deadline, and the guy who you know has been an asshole when things were calm, and now things are heating up, he's going to be more of an asshole.
Yeah, like you got to consider all that, right?
Yeah.
And then also too, it's like, you know, like, so Bill Schultz, the executive producer, brought me on. He knows me. You know, I used to work for him. You know, because I'm just saying, like, I could be an asshole, right? Like, do we ever really consider that? I don't think I'm an asshole, but we got to consider that because it's business, right? It's all business. So I'm always like, it's business. I don't want to be personal. Like, am I the problem? You know what I mean? So I was like, ask him, you know, so he would tell me, Jerry, like, yeah, you can't, like, you know, he give me advice on, you know, hiring friends. And so he wouldn't, you know, be positional, but he said, you know, your friends could play you, right?
Mm-hmm.
People been out drinking with party and get really, you know, serious about that. I got to take that in consideration.
Yep.
You know, like you don't just have like a business relationship with these people, so they could play you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you know, then this guy is like my friend. I made a and I, you know, I don't want to get into it. I made an emotional decision with how I handled my business of getting that job because it was a personal relationship with this person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna say that was all good either. I'm not gonna say it was all bad, but
been there. I put 8 years. I put 8 years on a project that just disappeared.
Yeah. Well, let's just say, okay, it's okay.
Like people that I was pretty tight with, and all of a sudden it was gone. I'm like, what the hell?
So maybe like, okay, you might have had a tighter contract, you know, pair play, you know, because like I had an issue with something that I created with Arsenio at Paramount. It was a great gig, but I'm glad at the end of it that I had a pair play contract.
Yeah.
And I don't think you do that with your friends, but you know, I had like a great manager, and like we didn't have no friends. I mean, I had a lot of friends personally, but I didn't, you know.
Yeah, not,
you know, I had a business of somebody handling them, you know. So I can tell you, it's like I take responsibility for anything, like things did happen, but yeah, I made a lot of personal decisions, and it was probably, you know, I was in San Diego and I was doing things with Nick. I was doing more entrepreneurial things, and my man just came through with like a higher profile project. A lot of, you know, project had been stalled for 10 years, but things were heating up, and he just came with a good convincing, like, Jerry, I like what you're doing. You just need a platform, you know, higher profile platform. You know, and I can tell, it's like I was still doing the things I was, you know, as a producer, you pursue at least 5 or 6 different things. You know, like when I got on this our Roker project and then started to really get it moving forward, everybody started calling me. Oh, and people that wouldn't return I can tell you that kind of affected me. I'm glad my man Bill Schultz was there because that caused me to have, emotional it wasn't questions, because it's like, damn, they're like, this person, they calling me, and now people dropping by when had to move to LA to do the job, and all these people acting like they my friend and stuff. I really needed help, a few
Like
years
you won the
ago.
lottery, and all of a sudden,
And
you won the lottery, and
now
all of a
everybody
sudden
got
come
my
out.
number. Yeah. And that made me really kind of mad.
I bet.
But I'm glad Bill was there, because he said, well, because he gave me, and that's not, I got good parents and stuff, but a lot of people don't go through these kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And even my brother was saying, it's like I had to really kind of deal with that, because I was like, I kind of felt mad at the people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But really what I got to kind of look at is like, I got to look at the opportunities that I have, and remember who I am, and kind of look at like, these people, they don't get these kind of opportunities, maybe, and there's a lot of work. There's a lot of, like, they got to understand there's a lot of downside to pursuing something that has a lot of upside.
Right.
There's a lot of hard years, but I'll also tell you, your audience, that I didn't grow up poor and broke. And I can tell you this, that's the one thing, and I'm not getting into, that makes a difference, because I see how people that have like a little bit more financial stability, and have had that in their life, and wealthy people, how they exploit other people that haven't had that. These people are putting a whole lot on their jobs and positions, if they're coming from a low esteem type of, because you can be a grow up broke, whatever, and have a lot of high esteem. So I'm just saying that doesn't really money isn't going to make you a better person, but just straightforward, I really, especially in college and stuff, and being in this career, I can understand like the bad decisions people make with their money are based on flat stupidity, man. Like maybe they just maybe haven't had the exposure to finances and stuff, even though we're making it hard. And also I'd see like a lot of their decisions, a lot of the confidence level is limited based on the property. And then I think a lot of white supremacy, because I don't hate on white people, a lot of white supremacy kind of a lot of black people are white supremacists. I tend to find black people that are more white supremacists than white people, because unfortunately, a lot of our brothers that have grown up with low self-esteem and poverty, dad not there, I don't know, whatever the situation, but I've seen a lot of it. They do get into these higher profile situations. In American society, you're going to be around more rich white people, and and like the rich white people just looking at it business, the black person looking at it like I'm elevating myself as a human being because I'm around these white people. I'm better than all these other black people.
Yeah, they start disconnecting themselves from what they've been around their entire lives, and like, I don't want to lose my spot.
Yeah, and I start reading. Exactly. And I started reading things by black motivational speakers about as you grow up, you gotta mature and leave other people behind. I read a lot of these kind of things, and okay, like, I don't want to make people wrong that believe that, but I just believe that thinking is faulty. That's not what you want to do. You want to be like we run the church, so I deal with a lot of black, rich, poor, whatever. We're dealing in the black community. We're dealing with society, and most of our people in our church are poor. Poverty, and they need leadership. They don't need acquiesce or power to any body.
Our education needs to change, because coming from the inner city, growing up the way that I did, and then being in the situation where I am now, I'm up in Northern California, up by Silicon Valley and stuff. And yeah, there's a few things that you said that are absolute gems that people need to probably put a little sticky note or something. A lot of it is that. A lot of it is the mentality. White folks, they're about that paper. They're about building companies and owning intellectual property and all that stuff. They build towards generational wealth. We build towards buying Jordans and buying these purses, and And it's not that I don't want those things for you, but we need to get to ownership first. I just had a conversation with Hotep. He said, if it's not ownership, it's a slave ship.
Yeah. That's it.
We need to set the standard for the people that are coming up. We need to set the standard that it's about ownership. If you're in music, own your masters.
Yeah.
If you're in animation, have IPs, fill out, go to whatever website and fill out whatever paperwork so you can get the copyright of these characters that you're developing.
Copyright, trademark, preach that, dog. It's like, because this is where I'm at, Yeah. I even go, I'll tell you this, man. It's like, so I was like one of the brothers that was like, even with like my freelance jobs, it's a design job or creation job. I only had one rule. It's like I'd take the job, but I wouldn't do it as a work for hire. I wasn't doing work for hire contracts for anybody. So that meant, because I had this manager, Harry Sternberg, big time music, manager, she just produced this movie called, she handled that We Are the World thing. So she had this Greatest Night in Pop. So she just produced that movie. And I can tell you, it's like, she probably I remember one year she bought the rights to Spinal Tap because she managed all the actors, Harry Shearer, all the lead actors in the movie.
Yeah.
And I remember like she was telling me, I bought the rights to Spinal Tap because at the time that the rights were up, even the producer, Rob, the guy, Reiner, they didn't have the money to buy it. She had the money. You know what I mean? And I was working with her because like at times like because I had this comic strip called No Joke. She was a friend of mine that she used to manage, Cheryl Lee Rao. And I was like working at Disney, so I had a girlfriend who was a crisis publicist who also was a PR agent for Cheryl Lee Rao. So we all were friends. You know what I'm saying? So I was hanging out with Harriet, and Harriet was in the music business, and she was working for King Kramer, and they were doing all kind of crazy. He was like the biggest, Lionel Richie, Lionel Richie, Kenny Rogers, like everybody, right? We Are the World, Hands Across America.
Yeah.
Paula, as she managed Paula Abdul. I can tell you things about the Paula Abdul album, a lot of people, because I was there, with them. She was like my friend, and she was like,
Did you have anything to do with that cat video?
Yes.
The Paula Abdul, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
You know what I'm saying? That was like something I did. That was a video. I worked on that as an assistant animator. I did like some, rough animation. And,
if you are a fan of Jerry Lee Brice, you need to go on YouTube right now and take a look at Paula Abdul. Forever Your Girl, isn't it?
Opposites attract.
Opposites attract.
Yeah. So Michael Patterson did that. I was like one of the crew members, etc. But I did that because it's like I was directing music videos that had animation for Black R&B groups, right? So that was a high profile video, and I was working at Disney and Hyperion at the time, so I was in that loop. So I was able to get that job. It's just kind of a cool, Easter egg for my resume.
I want to add.
If you go on
that's so cool. Settle flex.
You go on Instagram, you kind of see the rough animation, and everything.
I was gonna say, I want to add, even if you don't know who Jerry Lee Brice is, Jerry Lee Brice's work.
Yeah, definitely.
I've been there. Yeah. So like, I didn't know you did King of the Hill. I wouldn't even.
So like with the King of the Hills, I know it's where so basically it's like on the part of my career, I was a creator writer, so above the line, so I'm coming in, and but a lot of my career is like, dude, it's like I got to make a living. I live in California, rent is high, all these kind of things. So it's a job. It's how I pay my rent. So but it's the animation industry. That's the two things that people kind of conflate if they're not in the business. So it's like a lot of the jobs, like this Paula Abdul thing, or the Disney things, I was an employee. I'm in the union, right? You know what I mean? Like I'm probably gonna, I got a good career. I have a great career. So timing director, animation director, in between or whatever I can do, background art, what have you. I've done a lot of that. So so that Paula Abdul thing, I did that, but also I've had in I tried to separate, myself out of the production crew to be above the line. So the kind of thing. So I had a, so a lot of my credits, like Street Sharks, King of the Hill. The King of the Hill thing, though, that was kind of a great opportunity for me because that came to me from an independent project that had, that MTV had bought from me.
Mm-hmm.
And they had given me a production deal, whatever, what I'm saying? That was a creator thing. So I met Mike Judge and Abby Triculi and John Garrett Adams, who still, runs the LA Animation Festival. These are still my buddies, man. These people support me. They brought my project. It didn't really work out. I made a short, I made a PSA short based on my comic strip No Joke, which was in the Source magazine of hip hop culture and politics and urban magazine. And I did that with the Parliament Funkadelic artists Overton Lloyd, Ronald Stozo Edwards, and Pedro Bell. These are, I hope you're maybe, I'm dropping these names. So if you, I saw Dawood, Brother Man comics.
Yeah, so Dawood is that dude, man.
So hopefully your audience is used to older Black artists. Maybe look some of these guys up because the Parliament Funkadelic artists had a big impact on my life. Bootsy Collins, George Clinton, all that stuff. You guys, if you were into the 70s kind of P-Funk, had a lot to do with art, the comic strips, the comic book Sir Noah's Avoided Funk. I was really into that, and I actually got to work with those guys and hang out with them, and it was like I joined the circus, man, and blew my mind. So we had a comic strip, and because I was like, all this stuff you're talking about copyright, so George and them, they don't own any of the copyrights to any of their music. It's been a big fight, it's all in the media. My buddy Overton Lloyd and Pedro Bell and Ronald Stozo Edwards did the album covers, which was a big thing for the fans. Funkadelic album covers, and then Sir No's album covers, a whole comic strip that Overton Lloyd did. Overton Lloyd was a caricature artist on Win, Lose, or Draw. So anyway, so he's an older artist that I idolized. He's 10 years older than me. So the brother, so I met the brother, in Hollywood. So I ended up meeting the brother because we worked in Gap Band music video that blew up in the mid 80s. Fully animated, 6 minutes. Disrespect, check it out. All your favorite Black artists did it. It's amazing. Right. Ahead of his time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for real.
Now it's about, it was based on the night that Prince didn't, show up at the We Are the World recording.
Oh yeah.
And I did all the Prince scenes. But so that's what the song is based on. That's what we based the animation on, and had me, Bruce, Leonard, all these incredible Black artists. And we did a whole 6-minute video, blew up all across the country in the R&B, music market.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know if it ever hit the pop charts, but it was like I was invited every hood across America. All my cousins down south love that shit. You know what I mean?
Listen, Gap Band was
like
amazing back then.
Before the internet, so it's like about 85, 86. So it's before the internet. So it's like, so we were doing things. So if you had something that blew up, like what you would look at being viral now, people had to go out of their way. Like you were really, hitting. So it's like, I could tell there was a market out there for, for their artwork. So I got involved with Overton, during that time. We were even in the video during a little live action session. So we established a relationship then. I met all his friends, George, etc. They hang out at my apartment, So what I wanted to do was, I thought it sucked they didn't own any of their copyrights, their artwork. I remember we were walking down Sunset Boulevard one time, but actually it was Melrose with the Overton, and a lady, a really cute lady, was walked past us, and she had like, Overton had done all the Aqua Boogie, Parliament Funk, Aqua Boogie, like, so she had Aqua Boogie, t-shirt on, and he, he was kind of broke, right? And it was like really nice, whatever. So we asked her where you got it from. She told, Stussy, whatever store, real expensive, $50 t-shirt. I'm talking about the 80s, all, so it was like, man, imagine if you got, so we just thought that sucked. It's bittersweet, right? You're not getting paid, you're broke, but yet people are buying your artwork for, like an incredible amount of money. And you get, so I was like, we got to figure this out. So I was like, I knew people and he knew people. So there was LA Weekly. David Lynch had a comic strip called The Angriest Dog in the World. He was a famous director in the LA Reader. Matt Groening and Overton knew Matt Groening and his wife, so he knew their whole business things, and they were really helpful. But they had the Life and Hell strip in the LA Weekly. And we really that was the market that we were going for. We just wanted to do something that could dominate the LA comic strip market that was different, in a free a magazine. And we chose magazine. And that was the first one we did. And it kind of blew up. And then we got invited to be in the Source magazine. And they paid us.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? We're in the maybe
cool.
the second Source magazine. We're in the Source magazine for about 4 or 5 years. I argue, I was young. I argued with the editors and shit because they were like white folks. I had a lot of issues.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this. You know what I mean? Shaky. I might have been kind of harsh when I was younger. And if you read the strip, I wrote all that stuff, and it was I would say familiarize, and you can understand maybe what I was on at that time. You got to understand I was writing stuff, and it was social political things, and I was arguing with some really gross in it, and I was going to work, working at Disney, and I had a lot of pressure on me. But the strip was hot, and it was successful, and people kind of responded to it. So, whenever you're writing something or creating something, it's maybe I'm a method actor, but I had to kind of really get into it, and it did kind of take over, my life work. You know what I mean? But the material was abrasive.
I got a question
because mom hated it because I and stuff like that.
My realm is music. I don't dabble in art. I love art. I appreciate it.
Cool.
A lot of the guys in the 90s, the hip hop artists especially, are retaining their catalogs after 35 years.
Right.
Is there anything because of the copyright laws? So is there anything that protects artists from that, or are you guys able to retain any of your properties or anything like that, or protect yourselves, or what can upcoming artists do to
I have not. I know what you're talking about. I have not heard of anything like that for artists. My thing is I do a lot of I consult with a lot of attorneys on IP copyright cases like this. So it's I see a lot of shenanigans. The one thing I see with material that I'm familiar with, or cases I've been involved with, where people wanting to claim that your artwork is fair when they jack your artwork, that they're doing it fair use.
Yeah.
And then we have this public domain issues, and then there's issues that people try to say they try to deny somebody's copyright or trademark or invalidate it because of something that's common.
Yeah.
And I've been involved in cases like that. I don't want to
Yeah,
I can point you to 2 cases that I worked on recently, what I mean? But I'm just saying this. So it's I'm not familiar with anything. What I do know is that, the 99 year when something does come into public domain, that's a problem, right? I mean, if you create artwork, if you create something I don't care what it is, piece of music, happy birthday to me, whatever, I can understand the public saying, well, you want to own a copyright to happy birthday to me, whatever. I'm just saying you got to put yourself in the shoes of myself. I create things that I would want my heirs to inherit the copyright and control the value of that. I disagree with the whole to me, it's a form of government tyranny that they could ever force me to give up the ownership of my intellectual property. My manager Harriet, her standpoint with Paramount, I give it to her to this day. It's she argued we were just gonna walk away from the contract because she said if Jerry draws it, Jerry owns it. That's intrinsic copyright. So basically, why would I give up something for nothing that I already own? You're gonna have to deal with and I've always and she's an older person, though. I've always agreed that's always excited me about working with her, because she was hardcore about that, and she was we don't need to, if you own it, you draw it, and why would you ever give up? And every attorney that I've ever worked with on a copyright infringement case, and some of these cases were very high profile.
There's
I can say it's they've always asked me, Jerry, why would an artist ever sign a work for hire contract like this? because we found, you know, and I'm just saying, I tell them because they think they have to.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're a creator like Jerry, like me, if you have IP that you're dealing with, what you want to do is go to one of these lawyer websites. I forget which one I use anyway, I'll think of it, but you go to a website and then it will walk you through getting a copyright or a trademark. If it's your logo, whatever, you use it as a trademark. Yes, if you draw something and you release it out onto the internet, yes, technically you have copyright for that. But if you want to really protect yourself, fill this thing out. It's not that expensive. And then you'll get a piece of paper that says, yep, you're in the Library of Congress. You own the rights to blah, 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 blah. I have a comic strip called Robots and Aliens. So I took that, submitted that, got my letter. So now I own, and it's not Robots and Aliens and everything that has something to do with robots and aliens. It's not that. It's a specific category. It's a specific category and the specific characters and the specific universe that they live in and all that stuff. Then you can have, like, once your stuff blows up and you have a bunch of money, there's going to be IP lawyers, there's going to be copyright lawyers, there's going to be lawyers that can handle this type of stuff that will keep an eye out for you. Because one of the things that you need to actively do as a creator is actively protect your property or your intellectual property.
Well, yeah,
so if there's someone that's running around talking about there's this alien called Choopy and there's a robot called Rob, and I have to step up and go get them and tell them to cease and desist and all that stuff.
Yeah, you're actually compelled to, because if you don't, then
then you lose it.
Right. That's what you tell them.
Yep.
You know, and it's like, you know, so it is a monetary difference between a copyright and an actual trademark.
Yeah.
I've seen cases where, you know, it has in the case where, you know, I had a copyright, but then somebody trademarked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was like I dealt with that. It wasn't funny, but it was like they had a little bit more leverage of it was a problem.
Yeah.
You know,
I have a buddy of mine.
And I can see why people don't do that, because financially it's like you know, like I don't have the money to do it, so I'm going to do what I hopefully. But also, if you do any kind of commerce, if you're selling, you know, your thing, your t-shirt, whatever, that does protect you. Like my no joke comic strip, like that got challenged. Somebody was jacking that. I could mention their names, and it was a problem because they were, you know, prominent people, and it was sad because they just came after, you know, and my thing was first, whatever. But the fact that, you know, it was published in a magazine that did sell ads and stuff like that, that established a date that prior to maybe I had registered, that kind of negated their thing. So it was like, you know, but I had to hire somebody to figure that out, right?
I have a friend that had a bunch of artwork, and someone in Germany took one of his characters and they branded their entire company off of this one drawing that my buddy did. Like they had wrapped their car and all this stuff, but it was off of the artwork that my friend made. But then what do you do? Like, do you go and like bankrupt this small business? Is it worth it? Are they going to have the money that it takes to give you whatever for damages or whatever it is that, you know what I mean? It's a whole thing. And it's not an easy answer, except for if you have something that's worth it, you need to create that paper trail. Paper trail starts with getting the copyright from the Library of Congress, and then you defend your IP.
I'm telling you, this is what the rich people do, because this is my experience with our Roker's team and the Weather Hunters. Is like, you know, anything I would say that they kind of like, you know, always the weather in it together, anything like that, or, you know, any kind of catchphrase or character or name, you know, he had attorneys on you know, on retainer that they would immediately, you know, call them up and see if we can get that trade cleared. They buy the rights to that stuff immediately. That was the first thing he would do. So that's what rich people do. That's what you know, I'm saying that stood out to me. That's why
that's right. you can understand where someone is coming from, because you have a lot of people that are complaining and they talk about oh, I want to buy these shoes and I want to buy this car and all this stuff, but then you have rich folks that are like defending IPs and like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's how the rich people roll. You gotta
Yeah,
look at like
exactly.
Mr.
The conversation is completely different.
Look at Mr. Tenderism, right? You talking, this is a podcast, right? So this pop culture thing. There's was a destination, a smokehouse. We give them a little, barbecue, whatever. They caught up in the whole controversy online, but you can kind of look at it like, dude, he's a cook, got popular, started popping out, some term. Mr. Tenderism was one of them. The owner, white owner, whatever. And I'm not against it, what I'm saying? Like, so brother don't own it, whatever. But what I thought was kind of salty was the white owner went and was trying to trademark my man's, verbiage in his little viral videos and that they posted on Tenderism. And that's online. So I'm just saying, so that's something that everybody can look up. Why is that important? Because if I'm trademarking your catchphrases, your band name, your name, the name, y'all can't do nothing. You have to pay me.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And if I
or start over,
you can't pay me. Yeah,
or start over.
Echo Unlimited. I can tell you this. I do clothing lines. I'm glad you mentioned. You remember Echo Unlimited clothing line? When that first came out, because I was selling No Joke clothing at 432F show, so he was like small. These guys came out from Brooklyn. I liked him. He was a tagger, but he was Echo only had like tagger t-shirts and his ECHO, with the little rhino. I thought it was dope. And they gave you a little mixtape. That was the whole thing when they first came out. When they were hustling, gave you a little mixtape from New York, DJs or rappers, whatever. In California, okay, whatever. But they were cool, man. Like, dude was dope. Echo, Mark Echo. And then, so he blew up, bro. He blew up because a lot of those, everybody didn't stay small. He blew up, right? So he's the main stage and got real rich. I noticed that they had to change the ECHO, became ECKO, because he could trademark that, Even in our show, it's like, we would clear names in our show. So we write the names of the characters or whatever. So, before we go and produce all that stuff, all that stuff has to be cleared. We had an attorney just for that. So it's like I would change the names to whatever. Aloysius Bingham, Aloysius Herbert. Age Bingham was the main, the leaf painter. I created that because first of all, I knew what that meant. But okay, anybody gonna have this name, right? But we got that cleared. So now, Al Roker Entertainment, has that trademark. This is what rich people do because they don't want you selling, products associated with my show and me not getting paid for it. This character on this show,
you can simplify that by saying they don't do anything that don't get them paid.
Exactly. I mean, even like the music videos that I did, all that stuff was done work for hire. So I did like a popular R&B video, Bruce Smith, designed this character and animated. It's the first time a lot of people saw stuff like that on BET, top 10 video. Anyway, it's like, dealing with the record company, it's like I got the trade, I got the copyright and trademark to the character that was dancing in the video, that Bruce Smith, I was able to get Gerald Busby to get me that. And it was at the time, it was something that they weren't even thinking about because they were not in that business or whatever.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Yeah. But I'm just saying, it's like the proud thing, all that stuff is like I own this character. That's why I did this. I haven't really marketed. I just wanted to own it and maintain it. Because Bruce, he's I knew he was going to become an incredible superstar artist and stuff. So I just wanted to have that. So I mean, I did this. I never sold this T-shirt. I only wore it because you said you liked it. But I have 5 left. Like you know what I mean? Obviously, I actually like it, and that Floyd Norman. But that's all it is. I'm all about owning. That's why it's like maybe y'all didn't know me. I turned down a lot of opportunities. I spent a lot of my life just pursuing intellectual, property or copy, creating character designs that I could own or properties that I could own. And I did a lot of that with the, colleagues that I went to Cal Arts with. And they weren't always, Black properties, man. One of my favorite,
So you keep saying Cal Arts. So to let people know, Cal Arts, and Cal Arts was basically developed by Disney.
Yes.
So they would get talented folks like Jerry. You'd go to school, and it's basically a farm system for animators.
Yeah.
How did you get introduced to and then eventually admitted to Cal Arts?
It was I got introduced to Cal Arts. It was a college fair, college recruitment fair. And I met the recruiter there, a gentleman named Jules Engel. You know what I mean? And he was turned out to be a great artist, animator, and it's like he had just a great conversation with me at the time when I met him, because I was looking at, something else to do. I was considering, transferring college, and he was like, he hit me with this thing because he saw my art. He just hit me with this thing like, you ever like imagine this? Because I was doing drawings and paintings at that time. He says, imagine this moving. And I was like, okay, like I like that,
Yeah.
He was like, he was an abstract artist. He worked on a lot of Disney. He was a great animator, in Hollywood. Worked on a lot of these things, like art director and all these kind of things. So he'd do moving paintings. So as our relationship, grew, that became a compelling, suggestion to me, and I just liked him, and so I pursued it. I went up to the school, and my girlfriend at the time, went with me. She was a dancer, and I had to transfer from school, so we decided to do this together. She got actually accepted before. You have to audition.
Yeah.
And so it took me 2 times. She got accepted before me because she was really good. And then there was pressure, right? So I was like, oh man,
gotta get in.
Seriously, so that's the deal.
Like John, if you hang out with Brad Bird, do you know John Lasseter?
I don't know John Lasseter.
No. He lives up here by me.
Cool.
I've been to his house a few times now and hung out with him a couple of times.
Oh, cool.
He's a good dude.
Yeah, man. He hired a lot of my friends and colleagues.
Nice.
Makes everybody money.
Yeah, nice.
So, yeah, and it was like, I met so Brad Bird, Chris Buck, Chris Sanders.
What's his name? I'm trying to remember the guy who did Nightmare Before Christmas.
Tim Burton.
Tim Burton went there.
Yeah, in fact, that first Family Dog I think it was a special we did for Steven Spielberg had like an anthology show called Amazing Stories on NBC Primetime. We did like the first Family Dog. I worked on that one. So I got some artwork too. All my artwork is stamped with the Tim Burton or Brad Bird works.
Nice.
On it.
Subtle flex.
Because Tim Burton actually designed all those characters.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would love to have been at least in the lunchroom with all you guys.
Oh, cool.
Because it would have just been phenomenal to hang out with you guys. I went to film school. I went to film and animation school, and like it was the Art Institute's family of schools, blah blah blah, and it was fun. It was fun hanging out with a bunch of the kids that were there and stuff. But it's not at the quality of a Cal Arts would have been. Mm-hmm. And so just being able there to be in the room and just like through osmosis, like learn how much you guys are doing and what you guys are doing and how you're doing it. Oh, it would have been amazing.
Yeah, the school situation was great.
That
was like one of some of the best times of my life.
Yeah. And then after that, what was your first gig? You said, was it a Family Dog?
No, my first gig out of college was probably at Filmation, I think.
Okay.
Because I know I did some freelance gigs at DIC, and then I think let me see, like my first job out of college was probably Filmation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Explain to people, like when I was living in Chicago. Mm-hmm. I always wanted to visit Klasky Chupo. I always wanted to visit Filmation. I always wanted to visit all these animation studios. And I thought for a fact that when you got to the building would glow a little bit,
Right.
It's just normal. It's just a normal building.
Yeah. Like office building, people with the cubicles and desks when they work. Yeah.
Granted,
But
if you work at Walt Disney, that shit's a little different.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that was a studio. Like
right.
Once they moved us, like we were like off the studio when I worked there, but we're across the street from Imagineering, and that was basically like a whole different situation because they were like all the scientists and engineers that created all the rides for Disney World and all these kind of things.
Yeah,
they may have been designing Tokyo Disney or Disney Paris.
Yeah,
at the time, but dude, it's like all those engineers. Like I remember seeing like the Joe Cocker animatronic, guy fired because even like my friend fired it up, I'm saying it moving without the skin, and then had this one friend and he was like because it's like so Disney World, what was it? Like they have like the one area is I'm forgetting Epcot Center. So they were like how to grow plants and all this.
Oh, yeah.
We're growing, this guy, he was like growing plants and paper and stuff. He was, like the hydroponic guy. Yeah. So he's a friend of mine. I don't miss people's names. These are just guys because we walk around there, and they also have the roller coaster, all these, this is the atmosphere, right? So we were making rides. So all these guys had sculptures or guys making, pirate heads. It's just incredible, man.
Yeah.
So they would show me all this stuff, and so the mixture. So I'm a cartoonist, and this guy's my best friend was Phil Young. He was an older cartoon and one of the lead animators and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew everybody there. So it's like all the across the street, that's amazing people, So it's like my life was like as a young person at Disney was incredible. I mean, I try to act as normal as I can, but I'm telling you, man, just being exposed to these people was incredible. Making robots and stuff like Joe Cocker singing.
Yeah,
growing the stuff in paper because because then it was like growing other stuff. It was like we did all kind of things. Like what else can we grow on paper?
One of my best friends is animation director at Netflix Animation right now. And whenever I go down there, he's like, "You want to go to the studio?" I'm like, "Hell yeah." And it's always something. And one of the last times I was there, he's like, "You want to get in the booth?" And I was like, "Hell yeah." So I was able to like use all their sound equipment to do voices and all kinds of goofy stuff. It's
what I think was missing in the current animation industry is the fact that a lot of people working at home, we don't have like when I got into the union, it was a job. We had union breaks and everything. So through everybody working together and going to lunch together. Like that's missing because that's how the artist grew. That's how I got better. I mean relationships.
Being able to hang out with the other guys. Yeah,
walking around.
Feed off that energy.
Yeah, feed off the energy, and then like looking at your stuff while you're doing it. That's big. That's not happening in our industry anymore. So it's like
talk about how many jobs are going overseas.
Well, all the jobs are going overseas. I could tell you, so I gotta, preface this because, as a producer on the PBS series, there was no option to not go overseas. That I was offered. You know what I mean?
Right.
That was above my head. It's not like the amount of money. I do have an opinion of that, and I have been very vocal about that. Like all my friends are in Hollywood, and I think and then it's like. PBS is going through a lot of hard times, but I mean, a lot of this is taxpayer supported money projects, American taxpayers. So it's like unseemly to me that we're granting, American taxpayer dollars and forcing producers to produce them outside of our country because, you go out and you seek like subcontracting or third party studio outside the country that are offering tax breaks or tax incentives, Canada or whatever, Canary Islands was, these studios, and you're looking at the real, so you're making decisions. Can these people possibly do the level of quality I need to do based on their real? Because what's appealing is that they're giving me back. They're offering me 65%. Starts at like 35, but 65% of your money back as a tax incentive.
Yeah.
and nobody.
Not to mention the price per animator is lower. So not only are you saving money on animators, but you're also getting the kickback from the government.
Yeah, so they definitely come in because basically because their money, the value of their dollar is lower. So yeah, that's going to be natural. But mainly, like I've been all over the world doing business, was mainly attractive because we're not going to trip if we got to pay, an animator, whatever. They're looking at that tax incentive. That's really attraction.
Yeah.
Because is it really worth it to get like a low expense animator and it's a mediocre, quality, work? Is that really worth it? I don't think so. And then like who would make that decision as a creator? Like I'd rather pay more to get the higher quality project. But
not just that, we can go back to
that's not how the decisions are being made. That we're really chasing that tax incentive so that I can make my money back before I have to deal with
or minimize the losses.
Public acceptance or not. So does that really motivate me to do a hit show?
Yeah.
And then it kind of screws over the American taxpayer because like most of the animators I know in Hollywood now are unemployed. So I couldn't hire them. I was able to hire like some pre-production artists here,
Right. And even if you're just like a beginning artist, there's jobs that happen throughout the lifespan of an animated project that you can do. You can be a runner, you can be anything like that helps. But then you're getting exposure as an artist to these artists and going back to building a relationship with your team. It's all
this is so bottom line, it's like, so modern animation producing, whatever, they're not really trying to do it in America. You're doing I sent like 75% of the production out to a place called Nova Scotia. Simply because that's where the animation studio was, and they had also I made that decision based on a relationship. I'm saying that it worked out, but it was like one of the executive producers or sales agent. I had worked with this person before at Warner Brothers. So that had a lot to do with that decision because I would never do that again. I would never give up 75% of the budget to a third-party studio. Because you know what can happen?
They could flake.
Well, not only can they flake, but they can be like, I got 75% of this budget. They can start realizing that and making it work against you.
And try to take the other 25%. Yep. That's a very good point.
They can work against you. So all these demands, I'm expecting to be based on this relationship. We all gonna, go into this. We're trying to match this quality because we had a pilot, match this quality of production. We understand we're working with Jerry and I want to go blah, blah, blah. So I'll support them until the castle politics start to get involved. Once they found out that the people at Roker Enterprises hated me for, racial, it wasn't because I was making them a gang of money. That's why the project, and that was a problem for them, the white folks at least. And I'm just going to be candid about that,
But
I'll tell you then what happened was we had an illness that kind of caused the change in leadership at Roker Enterprise. And it wasn't Al, all that bullshit. I didn't get sick, but no, it was just they had the person that ran this company was a lady named Tracy Brennan, and she's the one that I really went to bat for. And we went to, I spent a couple years to get this project up and selling, all the strategy to make it happen. She was running a company, but she came down with like the Parkinson's kind of disease, and saw her in 6 months. I saw her lose her ability to hold her head up and function and all these kind of things. So basically, it's like that opened the door for a snake to come in. Somebody that she thought was her friend ended up being just a snake.
Let's set that table. Al Roker, if you don't know, Al Roker is the black dude on Good Morning America, is it?
I think it's called NBC Today Show.
Okay, the Today Show. Okay, yeah. So he's the guy that does the weather.
He's a weatherman. He's a weather reporter.
And so he's very successful. He's been on TV since forever.
Yeah, I remember when he took over. Remember I used to watch the Today Show I remember when he came on because they had a different weatherman.
Yeah.
That I liked a lot.
Yeah.
The white dude, I forget his name.
And on TV, he seems like a really nice guy. Al does, at least.
Yeah, but you don't ever want to meet your heroes, right?
I met Dawood Anyabuile a handful of years ago, and he is my go-to that says not all the time. There's sometimes that you do, and if you bump into a Dawood, if you bump into a Dawood, that's
I'm just saying, you understand, like,
I'll give you 99%.
Some people are very performative. Like I was saying, but sometimes you don't want to meet your heroes, man. Like Luau Cinder.
So he went. Obviously, he's been making money for a long time now, and then from what I'm gathering in your story, he started Al Roker Productions.
Yeah.
Is it an animation house or just a content?
No. He was doing, content. He was doing producing like news bits or specials, documentaries, these kind of things.
Okay.
Weather live action, related projects.
Mm-hmm.
Like Alaska Weather Patrol, something, doing a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
This was
so then my man Al goes, I have this idea for a weather related cartoon. We're gonna call it Weather Hunters.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they came and got you?
No, what happened was it was like a decade. I think it's something that in 2010, my buddy Bill Schultz, met Al, whatever, because he's an animation producer who was produced a lot of hot projects. He did based on celebrity, Simpsons, Kenny Hill, and one based on Rob Drydeck, whatever. And he had his own, was doing things. So I knew him, and I was doing things, trying things based on celebrity. I'd done, projects with Arsenio Hall, Martin Lawrence, and independent projects. So
I know I worked on Big Mama's House 3, the website for Big Mama House 3.
Oh yeah, I mean, man, Martin
with that, it's not going to change your life at all. But I like to flex that.
No, man, I like, I seen, I remember being in India, seeing a line around the block for a Big Mama's House when worked in India, and they had premiered over there. So it's like, he's a big, even though I dealt with, he's a big star, dude, and we actually developed a pretty cool, preschool series, and was trying to sell it to CBS based on the characters he did on the show. Like Roscoe's Neighborhood was the name of it, and had Shanae. I mean, I got that all up in line. I designed them and everything, and we wrote it with the Kim Bass was a writer on it. With Martin, we pursued it and everything, but there's some things we wasn't able to sell it because there were some things that happened in his life that kind of overtook publicity at that time, that kind of made it like something that people didn't want to do. But it's a hot project. Some of the best designs ever did, and it's unfortunate, kind of bullshit that a black celebrity has to go through, because he was the top black celebrity at the time, dog. Or just comedian at the time, and I thought it was good. Definitely, go look at some hot designs, but these are the I had like experiences, so it's like I understand. I am kind of being salty when I do mention the fact that, when Al hired like the writer, he hired white writers, whatever, back in 2010, and Bill probably did too. But they had been working on this project for a good decade prior to the time I came onto it. And when I came onto the project, so it's 10 years, Karen, whatever, was nobody black on the project, but they had produced an 11-minute pilot. And it had, I think Tyree Dillahay was the director. And Tyree Dillahay, you'll be hearing a lot about him because he has this movie coming out called GOAT on, Sony movie. He's a director of that, designer, one of the co-directors. Anyway, so, Bill had a relationship.
It's about a soccer playing goat.
Yeah, exactly. So, be big time. So this is the story. So Tyree, I guess Bill knew Tyree, like we had met Tyree through Northridge. So he hooked Tyree up to be the director for this 11-minute pilot. Because after 10 years of pursuing this, because you're pitching things, whatever, doing decks, whatever, Al was, and I would say this, I'll give it to Al. Bill convinced him to spend between, $800 to $1 million to produce an 11-minute pilot. So that's not a sizzle reel, that's a pilot. We did an episode.
Yeah.
So they did that independently, so it could have worked or not, right?
And the difference between the two is a pilot is an actual like episode, and a
it's an
sizzle
episode,
reel is about 3, 4, maybe 5 minutes
and it
to
probably
show you what it is, give you a good idea of what it is that you're.
it with no narrative structure. That's the deal. It's like a trailer, the sizzle reel. So the pilot has a narrative structure. So it's a beginning, middle, and end. And so most preschool series, the format is 2 11-minute segments, right? So that make up your whole half. So that was a plan. So they did like 1 11-minute segment, sizzle reel, and then they presented at the PBS. So the person that ran PBS is a lady named Linda Simeski at that time, at PBS Kids. And I knew her too, right? So from being in the industry for a lot of years, right? Familiar with her. Luckily, she liked me. We had a good relationship, and I definitely had a great relationship with Bill. So they did this pilot, and then the artwork was kind of dominated. Tyree had hired my friend Tara Nicole Whitaker, profound illustrator, cool sister. So the artwork looked like hers. I was at that time really trying to promote her artwork because I was really hardcore. She's a younger lady, younger girl. So I was like, let's do I told her I looked at her artwork. She could be like the Lisa Frank. Remember Lisa Frank and all of that. So I was like, you talking about licensing? I say, hey man, we see you as the next Lisa Frank, and I would kind of gas her up like this. And what I liked about her, because she would kind of give that back to me, so she was with it. You know what I mean? She's very cool. I don't know if you should have her on your show. Very cool girl. You'll know all her work. But yeah, so she was kind of she was going with it. So I was like, damn, let's do this, man. So I was actually trying to hit up Bill about that, but the day I met with him, he popped on this 11-minute pilot, and it's like, damn, that's Tara's artwork. So I was kind of thrown. It was okay, checkmate, dude. I didn't know you knew her. Like, what is this? So it's like, so I said, damn, you already know. So my thing was like, he kind of caught me off guard. He presented to me that, Tyree had gotten this opportunity to, direct this feature film. Because this was 2020, so the movie's coming out now, so it's like 5, so it takes a long time to make these. So we had to go do that. The project was kind of like semi greenlit at PBS, semi not. I don't know, semi green light was. So they did. It was kind of like stalled.
Yeah.
And so Tyree had to leave. So they wanted like somebody under that had the sensibility to pull it through. And I knew Tyree, so I talked to Tyree, and he told me his whole plan for it, blah blah blah. And do you think so we thought I could do it, and I talked to Tara and everything, and then I talked to the people I worked with on the last big pilot I did for back in 1990 for Arsenio Hall at Paramount. Bob Iger had bought, and there's a lot of political issues. So that was like a long time ago, but so I talked to them, and it was right at the time that George Floyd had gotten killed. That Bill and them called me, right? And so we kind of knew what was happening. And actually, when I talked to Linda and everybody's being honest, they had all this great awakening. But anyway, what all these things, all this timing with, Tyree getting involved in this feature and then wanting me on this project, my friends, friends at the Arsenio project, they were like, they gonna use you, whatever. But I talked to her about it. It's like, okay, but if I am in this position, I can hire everybody, and I may be able to hire some of my friends, and we can maybe keep this thing happening. And she said, well, they gonna blah blah, and actually, everything that Kim Swan said was right. But I definitely wanted to do it because it was a good opportunity, because I knew like that was the best opportunity that I had. I could really kind of flex and do some things.
Yeah.
Really kind of flex and do some things. And yeah, so I went ahead and did the job, and the first thing I did, they were having a hard time, hiring black writers. With no black writers in Hollywood, blah blah blah. So the first meeting I had was all black writers. All of them, had full, credits and all these kind of things.
Sure.
Sid Ventress, who wasn't even available, but he showed up. I almost started crying because he's a friend.
Yeah.
In a lot of he led the Hey AJ thing that just came out. He was doing we had the same agent, but he showed up just to represent for me.
Nice.
And but I had a lot of these black writers, and because that's where they were, people was being clear, and I provided that for them. So because that's my original job, was to be a hiring consultant on the project.
Okay.
And then I kind of went with that, because it was kind of in flux for a good, few years. But it got around maybe around like a couple months being on the project, I got comfortable with everybody, because I saw what was wrong with the project, and what was wrong with the project is that I was the only black person in the room, and it wasn't really like, it was a good family show,
right?
And great character design, but it wasn't anything.
And just to let you know, Weather Hunters is about a black family.
Yeah, I mean, it's our Roker's family. They are black, right? So it's a family show. But I thought, like, okay, how to make this show special? Like Al Roker has a black family, and I know they're from the islands and stuff. So at home, they're not rich people. So why not go all the way with? Why do we have to do a whitewash? Black family.
Yeah.
I thought that would, make it culturally authentic, and the fact that 75% of our budget was a CPB, diversity, equity, and inclusion grant that required all this that we agreed to, and we actually had a conversation about this. I said, because I didn't go into this when I showed up to Al Roker's thing, I saw I was only black. Me and Al was the only black person around this table.
Yeah.
So I immediately, I'm from Hollywood, I deal in Hollywood, so I understood what was up. So I'm not gonna go ham on this, blackness, because that's not what that they had, going on,
Yep.
But so I was just gonna hire everybody, do a great project, whatever, however they wanted to go. But once they went for that DEI grant and started going down that black thing, okay, it's like I had nothing against that. But I said, hey, man, we don't have to do this. We can just go get a regular science grant. But they wanted to do that. So once we did that, one thing I don't ever want to do is be a person that has no integrity.
Right.
So I'm not taking 75% of a DEI grant. We're going to hire a majority of black writers and make all these. And then I was a diversity, equity, and inclusion, person that had to make all these reports. There was a lot with that, and I know President Trump hates this, whatever. White people think it's racism, but this is. I'm not getting into the argument. I'm just telling you, contractually, that's what they agreed to. And I didn't want to be signing my name to false reports, because that's sounds like fraud to me.
Someone I know that fudged some numbers on some papers got 36 count felonies.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just saying, it's like, I know people, this is common, this is common practice. And I think,
you're trying to do the right thing. Yeah.
Yes, but I'm saying, if you're going to defraud a public government program, you're safe to defraud a diversity, equity, and inclusion, the way that, because they're not going to, what I'm saying? So maybe I was ahead, maybe he knew something I didn't, maybe he is I don't know. I can't say he's a Trumpster alleged, but I'm just telling you, that's what they did, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't want to really have any parts of that.
Yeah.
So at the end of it, you didn't say, so that's how things kind of ended. But we got to the 35th episode, but I created a character line, but I elevated my position there from a hiring consultant to like supervising producer, because I came up with these storylines for Great Grandfather Wallace. I created some older characters. Miss Joyce hired my friend Cheryl Lee Ralph to voice it. Al got LeVar Burton to do. I created some characters and storylines, and then I had to oversee the writer. I was invited. PBS made me go to all the writers' room meetings, so I created storylines for the majority of the season.
Yeah,
based on my ideas. Along with curriculum advisors, etc. But I was a part of the executive story team.
Yeah.
There was Karen Greenberg, I hired John Semper, which I regret. Because, I had to hire a black head writer, because that's what they told me to do.
Sure.
So, I didn't know John. I wanted to hire Sid. Sid wasn't available. I didn't know John, and Bill Show said he knew him. I've been around Hollywood. I knew John Semper. I had an opportunity to be a director of a series called Kid and Play back in maybe 1990. Talking a long time ago. Kid and Play series. So Suzanne DePass and her partner Susan Costin. These are prominent, TV producers. Suzanne used to be the vice president of Motown, but she started this. They called me into their offices at Maple Street in Beverly Hills, and they wanted me to direct this series, Kid and Play series, and I wasn't available, but I took the meeting, and anyway, that's how I knew John Semper. So I knew he has done some things. He's a brother that does. He's a black person that what I get with him. I don't want to call him anything out of his name. He's a black person that will not hesitate to benefit from his blackness. But he on our show, he told me, Jerry, I don't want to work with any black writers because all the black and BIPOC writers suck. He argued against having Cheryl Lee Ralph on the show when I created the Miss Joyce character, because he said, Jerry, we already have too many black people in the show.
God damn.
We don't have enough white people on the show. He didn't want to have Cheryl Lee Ralph cast in the show. So we had an argument, and actually, and I got Zoom meetings, all this stuff. So man, I can say I don't want to get y'all in trouble, but I can say allegedly or whatever, but I do have a paper trail of all this. And then I think I sent you the lawsuit, and I think all those things are highlighted in that lawsuit that Bill has against Al Roker Entertainment, that civil rights of discrimination lawsuit. I think I forwarded it to you.
I don't even. I haven't gotten it, but I don't know if my heart can take that.
But that's a public record. But there is a lawsuit ongoing, and if you want to go down that path of what happened to me on that project, it's pretty well stated in that lawsuit that my partner Bill Schultz has. But that's what happened. So I don't know, I don't know where they make black people. I didn't grow up in Boston. I do know that my buddy, I do know, the group New Edition and Belle Biv DeVoe. Sure. So this character was, Ronnie DeVoe. We based this character on Ronnie DeVoe. He's a friend of mine. You see,
okay.
He made a
shout out Belle Biv DeVoe.
Yeah, he made a guest appearance.
Shout out New Edition, Ralph Tresvant, all those guys.
Yeah. So I have, so in this Motown video, so he was a live action character they returned into an animated character.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so my relation, so I've been knowing them for years. But I remember one thing he told me about brothers from Boston. He said, Jerry, if you ever meet any brother from Boston, they say they're from Boston and they don't say they're from Roxbury, don't trust them.
I told Bill the guys from Chicago.
Yeah, okay. I'm just saying, right? We know these.
Yeah.
Was it
anyone that says that they're from anyone that says they're from the east side of Chicago, they're full of shit.
Full of shit.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's like you said, most the black people on most, because you go back to Boston, Roxbury's like that's the black neighborhood. I think that's where it's coming from, and then and then it turns out the brother was from Roxbury, man. But I don't know, he's older than me. He's like 10, 15 years. I don't know. He's an older dude, so I don't know, maybe some lower set, but he definitely was he was really campaigning for the whiteness, and I hired him to be the black head writer of the show. But he was really Catholic. He was really out there protecting whiteness. So that was the main problem. Karen Greenberg, the lady, the credit for development show. I mean, bless her, I liked her. I mean, she turned out to be a snake, unfortunately. Yeah. Thinking, going after me because John was a little bit easier for her to handle. But I mean, what we did is but when we came together and created that Great Grandfather Wallace kind of redeveloped that pilot, that was during a time when we weren't getting paid on the show. Neither one of them. There were times where we wasn't getting paid anything on the show. And it wasn't moving forward. So we just came together because and we did this, and we invited John. He didn't join it. We just came together to have those meetings to figure out. We just wanted the show to move forward, So I knew that. So it was basically volunteering their time, but we came up with all the storylines, and she synthesized and created wrote a great Bible, and that's what got the show financed in 2023. And so I'll say so she was easy to handle, but I can show you. So she don't really know anything about black people. She's like, we're just black white people, as far as our home life and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So I had to explain I had to do a lot of explaining to her. I had to, so what I had to do is kind of juxtapose Black culture with similarities with her white Jew upper middle class white Jewish, wherever rich people in New York live, upbringing, and kind of show similarities in her life so that she can understand maybe. But I mean, I have like things she don't understand the challenges of Black, because great grandfather Wallace was the Tuskegee Airman. He was one of the first. He was a meteorologist. So you can look at Tuskegee Airmen and fantasize about they did a lot of greatness, but the reality of Tuskegee Airmen is that the only reason why they were in existence because it was separate but equal laws. That I was like we had to do everything that was set. Black people could legally be separated, white people separated, but they had to have equal things. So it's like, they didn't have them white pilots and air people didn't want to have anything to do with the Black people. So so it's created out of race. And so one thing I didn't understand is that not only that they have air people, they had like the meteorologists, the engineer, the people that work on, like everybody Black, was working over here because white, so that's a sad reality. So it wasn't they did heroic things. They were being openly and actively discriminated against.
Yeah.
And then you kind of look at the great grandfather. So you're talking about 1940, 1945. When did we get to really see a bunch of Black commercial airline pilots, PSA, Eastern Airlines, really?
Yeah.
You see that. And when did we really start seeing a bunch of Black weathermen or meteorologists on TV? Pretty sure that was the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they made sure, like we saw this in the that movie about the Black ladies at NASA. We saw that when they were recruiting possible astronauts, they made the rules to make the year so anybody that was in the Tuskegee Airmen were automatically too old to participate in the first NASA.
Ain't that a bitch?
You're talking about active discrimination. So I'm just saying, so I brought that up. I'm just saying, so we can, so this, I wanted this character, to be a person that was like, really qualified, from his experience to be a meteorologist on TV or whatever, work at PSA. But those opportunities, as you know, with Jim Crow, legally, state sanctioned racism, there was no fairness. Those opportunities weren't open to them. This was based on relatives of mine. So what they had to do was be janitors or, low-level jobs, and then have to live and go home and know that, okay, I'm better than, I could be a weather, I'm better than all this. So this character, janitor or whatever, had a low-level job, service job because of Blackness, would come home and under his house, he would, be like a weather scientist making gadgets, whatever, all these kind of things. And then the family would see that, and that would be like a family shield or, an agenda for the family to make sure that, like going forward, our whole family is going to push this dream that, great grandfather Wallace had. So it's about, so it's a typical story about a Black man being denied. And then it's denial causing the fire. Because you can look at a lot of families, like my family was in construction. So obviously me and my brother, we do that a lot, right? We know how to do it. We could have ran those businesses, or a lot of my friends, the Pakistani friends, their family own motels, and they all do that, if they didn't go to college, So it's not like unusual for families to inherit family businesses and things like that. And in Europe, you have family shields and all these kind of things. So So that's why Al, so the thing was, that's why Al Roker became a meteorologist. Well, he's not a meteorologist. That's the one thing that,
He just plays one on TV.
That's the one thing I had trouble because it is kind of fake. He's a weather.
Wow.
He's not a meteorologist. He's an actor. Like he reads the weather.
Damn it, Al.
But the character Al, the Al character in the cartoon is a meteorologist. So,
Yeah.
I always told him, man, if we put this out, people gonna think you're meteor, but I think that's what he wants.
Yeah. People inflate themselves.
Santa Claus isn't real.
Yeah.
With everything that you've been through in your career, I know that there has been like, it seems like micro level change, but what do you think when you see things like, I think his first name is Ryan Coogler?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, the Sinners director.
Yeah, and they're coming out and they're coming out with more projects that I think a little bit more independent. How do you feel, how going through everything that you've gone through in your career, how does it feel to see young Black directors and creators out here doing their own thing?
It feels great, man. It feels like like progression.
Yeah.
Especially like in my business, well, film business in general. Yeah, people kind of getting smarter.
Mhm.
The fact that we have like the conversation we had today, about IP, etc. More people are talking about that. Like,
Yeah.
So you're not alone out in the wilderness just talking about that, because you could just be one talking about it and everybody else be like, oh man, shut up, just pay for it. What I mean? That's what it is, right? And then say, here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are. So it's like, yeah, I think like what's great is like more people are smarter about that. The music business, the things the brothers have been through in the music business and everything, that's kind of like spilled over in all the other, parts of entertainment business, and everybody's trying to boss up and be smarter. My focus with that is like, I kind of like look at like, okay, look, since we're talking about Weather Hunters, I'm looking at like, when I got on that project in 2020, like August 2020, and y'all saying it now in 2025. So let's take the 5 years that I working on that project.
Mhm.
I remember like there was a internet cartoon called Gracie's Corner. I think they started around 2019, 2020. They're 5 years later. Now like 2026, they've been nominated in the same category as the Weather Hunters. That's one of the biggest, hits on the internet, in children's television. That's an independent project that this mother and father, I even paid to hear them speak, but the little family, it's always like somebody not in the business that's going to make the biggest waves. I always tell people, it's like, it's going to be somebody outside the business, that just doing it,
Yeah.
And in this case, the Gracie's Corner, I don't know if you know that cartoon, but I just kind of like, my point with that, I look at the time. Like I'm very pleased that the public likes the Weather Hunters, the PBS cartoon. So that's a $20 million cartoon. We spent $500,000 for each episode, 22-minute episodes. I know that because I did the budget myself. You know what I mean? And these are broad numbers. I can tell you how much the animation costs. Because paid the, but the numbers, so $500,000. I can guarantee you I'm not in the people's pockets, but I would say that it's a good bet that the budget per episode for Gracie's Corner is not at that $500,000 level. And that those people didn't have to deal with all the levels of notes and input that I had. You gotta kind of happily take it now, and you have to have that opinion, attitude while you're working. But I can step back and say this: I don't need all those people to be the slow, to be bad. In fact, less. You know what I mean? Like they make you, I had to, because I didn't have the Jews to not deal with those people, and if the people are listening, I have nothing against them. But I didn't need all of y'all. Needed some of you, not all of you. Especially from the network. I didn't, the opinions from the network. It's like they're strong, strong opinions, because these are executives that have probably been fighting their way up the ladder. But they didn't get there by writing and drawing and stuff like that. They're getting there by, giving your opinion on somebody's writing, drawing, and shit like that before the public gets an opportunity to tell if you're right or wrong. That's the gatekeeping you're talking about.
Right. Exactly. How excited are you?
Power, but you got to play along, right? Or you're not,
How excited are you that the industry is going more independent? Like, we don't necessarily need to see, I personally don't necessarily need to see my stuff on a TV more than on a YouTube channel or on a Instagram feed or whatever.
It's a financing that's going independent, and really the financing kind of follows the public. Once they started using, or powerful players like Netflix started using algorithms and I mean, you know, when I buy, you know, ads on YouTube, whatever, I'm looking at trend analysis and things like that. You know, like we all kind of got into it. I want to see what's kind of popping, what are people talking about, you know, and kind of go towards that. The people commissioning or financing the movies and things like that started to do that. And then this is what they're demanding. It's like, I remember the difference. I used to develop cartoons and just ideas I thought would work and take a slate of cartoons to NBC, CBS, or whatever, and pitch them, and hopefully you want to stick. Now it's all about, like, I remember somebody told me, Jerry, what you got to start doing is you know, and it was like 2003 or something like this. You got to start posting and try to get 60,000 followers on YouTube, and then come back, and then they'll tell us that, because they're really
only a lot of careers.
Yeah, they're really only following they have no opinion about, you know, now you're if I like what you're doing or not. Like it's easier to hate it. I used to be a reader. It's easier to hate everything, say no to everything, that you're safe to do that. But once you kind of put yourself out there and say I like something, that's when you start to put your own career in jeopardy.
Yeah.
All y'all got to know that. So if you really like, so I tell people, I don't even know my friends, whatever, you know, I got people hounding me. And it's really the people that you have relationships with, they're hounding me in my DMs, wanting to send me their scripts and read them and all this. I'm just saying, and it's an animated series, I'm saying, and then it'll be something in a genre that I have nothing to do with, because these people just know that I work in the film business.
Yeah.
This one brother stopped me at my funeral, at my sister's funeral.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. And he still don't get it. To pitch me, you know, some movie script for some book that is, and then to come to find out
that's a really good way to.
I'm just saying, and I'm saying this book must be hot, whatever. But you know, whatever, because you can't really blow him off because it's a friend of your family. But then it's like, and then he keeps following through, and then you find out the book is sold like 20 copies on Amazon. Shit. Like, now I'm thinking, like, dude, do you know at the level, you know, and then you can't really say that, right? Because then people like, oh, now you just funny style, Jerry, you know. So I don't know. I'm always dealing with people outside the industry and in the industry. People outside the industry don't want me to feel like I'm any different than I know that, right? Because I've had relationships go bad just by, you know, maybe acting like I'm happy with something that I did with someone, like, you know, because you coming around, if you hang around your friends that you grew up with, and I always try, you know, I always like that, but you know, it's really, you know, what changes is them, you know, like your success may put them in tune with their lack of success. Yeah, like they may have a successful job. Yeah, like they didn't, you know, gamble everything on being an artist. You know, they went and did that safe thing.
Yeah,
I'm looking at them. You know, you got a wife, kids, nice house. Well, that's what I'm looking at. But they like jealous of you. You know, so like my life has been, especially when I was younger, it's been very tenuous with relationships, because some of your friends are your haters, man. They jealous at a level, and they look at what you're doing at a different level than you do.
Yeah.
Like I'm in a union, I'm always having, you know, it's a struggle to get the next job. You get the job, it's hard to keep, you know, I got to entertain, you know, even with this show, it has to, no matter what I went through to make it, whatever, has to work, right? If it doesn't work, it's off or not. Nobody cares. But once you're there, you know, everybody wants to participate, but they didn't want to participate in the hassle of getting there. So you know,
right.
But I understand they don't understand, you know. But I just like people. If people kind of took me serious, man, I don't want to take myself too serious. But I mean, it's like, dude, you know, this is hard. You know, this is not a joke.
If it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
That's right. You know, and you know, I've been knowing you for years. You never came around asking, you know, talking about movies or whatever, you know, like, why are we doing it now?
Yeah. You didn't ask me to do Instagram posts if I needed help doing Instagram posts.
Yeah. 10 years ago, 10, 20.
Now all of a sudden you're an Instagram specialist.
Yeah. Because you read my name, like, it's not the time to come at me. It's not the time when things are like, when I done smoked it, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm not trying to open the doors for anybody like that.
Right.
If you are a person that knows me and you know of a really high project that's selling, you know, hundreds of thousands of copies on Amazon, you know, hit me up with something like that. That's a business school. But you're not gonna get me on like some friend type of relationship, because that's what people try to exploit, their friendship, because then they kind of they try to exploit that relationship to make you kind of, I want to read your script, and oh, you're supposed to be a friend. Man, I ain't a friend like that for nobody, because you never.
And then 8 years later, everything fell apart. You're like, what the fuck?
like I said, you know, I work on a lot of lawsuits, so I understand how these things go. You know, like all these lawsuits that I work on with these attorneys been based on. You know, I knew a secretary at Disney that had a friend that was, you know, lived next door to her, so I gave her a script, and I know that they showed it too, because they're suing, you know, the studio for stealing their movie that's, you know, Zootopia or some shit, you know.
Yeah.
But that's how that goes. So, you know, you can't do somebody a favor like that and expect that to go good.
Yeah.
So I don't ask for favors. Just like I tell people, I don't read scripts, especially for cartoons and stuff. I look at like videos, and I want to see like numbers.
Yeah.
And before
Especially at a funeral.
Well, yeah, exactly. Don't even hit me up. But if I'm just playing, because it's kind of like, that's crazy, right?
At a funeral.
And I was like, right out, we had just put her, you know, body in a hearse. It was actually kind of sad, because it did kind of piss me off. But then it's like, you know, you know what I mean? Like,
I also don't know. I also don't know what would take a person to think that situation, like, what is he going through in his life to think like, I have to swing for the fences right now at this funeral.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I don't know. Yeah.
Which for that, like, mad respect for actually finishing a book. The majority of the people don't.
Yeah.
But like, if you have 20 sold copies, you got to get your numbers up.
Yeah, see what it is for a lot of people. You know, this is like a lot of the template. It's just a fact that I did it.
Yeah.
You know, that's all. You know, and I think like when people look at me and my career, it's just a fact that I'm, you know, like they can't distinguish between an in-betweener job and the fact that I produced and created the series. There's no, you know, a lot of people can just know that I'm working in films, right?
Yeah.
You know, they don't kind of understand the struggle, you know, that goes through. You got to kind of look at like where you're at. Like, I don't need you to I need you to help me. Like, if you're really trying to get involved in me, you know, get involved with me when I'm building, not when it's built.
Yes.
Because that looks like you're trying to use me.
Cefore and I talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
We talk about this all the time. Not everybody wants to do the hard part.
No, but I'm just saying, it's like,
you want to show up when things are almost done.
Yeah. And I don't.
And that's why we tighten our circles. That, you know, like, talk about the circle. Like, your circle gets smaller, not because you don't want to share the pie, just because the people that are trying to eat are just trying to eat, and they don't want to make.
They don't.
Pie.
Yeah, they're trying to use it's transactional. You know, they're trying to use you. It's like,
trying to peel apples.
Well, I'm in San Diego now. It's like, you know, I don't want to have any fake friends, man. It's like,
exactly.
You know, and it's because you know,
that shit.
I want to stay in that struggle. It's not a struggle, but I want to like, you know, LA, you get a lot of desperate people, and it was just sick the way, you know, like I'm friends with people, but I'm not. We not that kind of friends, because
you're friendly. You're friendly with people.
Yeah, they never called me that. I had people showing up in my office, you know.
Yeah.
And you got to grant, it's like by the time I got this job together, I knew who I was going to hire. Yeah. So it wasn't going to be any convincing me, or, you know, it wasn't really the time. And all the voice actors and stuff that keep hitting me, you know, up in my DM, you got to understand, I'm never going to hire any unknown voice actor.
Yeah.
You know, unless you're a little kid. The little kids, definitely, because they kind of smoked it, man. That's one thing, because then they're new, you know, like the new actor, all the little kids were like new, and they're blowing up now. But I'm never going to hire like an unknown, you know, voice actor.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Got to put in the work, huh?
Yeah. I mean, like I will, like, I have become known to some voice actors online, because they post so much cool stuff that, you know, and then it's like, dude, this guy, I want to hire this guy. You know what I mean? But
the grind, you see the grind. You see the grind.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just fine, but there's never somebody like, you know, this is how it goes on LinkedIn. I add you because, you know, somebody random, I don't know, want to be a friend. I'm adding a friend, and then I get like this hella long email and somebody's demo tape and stuff.
I promise I'm not going to send you any scripts. I'm not going to send you no.
Well, you guys hit me up in your demo tape, and I'm on your show now, and it's like, okay. Well, you're gonna get some coverage.
Well, I know you got to go. So, Jerry Lee Brice.
Yeah. You didn't talk about King of the Hill, man. I'm sorry.
Give people. Oh yeah, we'll have to come and have you back on.
All right.
Yeah. Give folks your last parting words of wisdom, and then where they can find you online.
Well, my last parting words of wisdom is people is do your thing, don't listen to anybody, and keep it moving and get paid.
That's a good one. Get paid.
Get paid. And you can find me online at my online name is Jerry No Joke. So I'm at Jerry No Joke, I think, on Instagram and LinkedIn. I post a lot on LinkedIn, business stuff. On Instagram, it's pictures, and Facebook is kind of a mess at this point, but
yeah,
I try to same stuff on Instagram, on Facebook, so LinkedIn, it's all business, that's all good.
Awesome.
Yeah, hopefully I said something to help somebody.
Well, you helped me quite a bit, actually.
Cool.
Selfishly speaking. So if you watch this video and you didn't pick up any gems, go back and rewatch it, because he was dropping gem after gem. So
100%.
Thank you, sir, for taking time out of your busy schedule to come hang out with us.
Yeah.
Yes, your hair is on point. Everything looks good, man.
My hat on, man. Sunday morning.
It's really nice to meet you, man. I can't wait to hear more about what you have going on. I can't wait to get into all of the stuff that you've ever done. When I say this, I mean this with my whole heart. You are an inspiration to me because of wanting to be wanting to have the career similar to yours. Awesome. Was always something that and it's just really nice to see someone as cool as you out here doing it and fulfilling that role. We need more people like you out there.
Cool. I'm gonna tell you, my career, it's had a lot of good times, but there's always a lot of bad times. So you probably just want to do the good times. But I'm saying that the bad times kind of shape my whole person,
Yeah.
Those stuff out too, man, because they propel you into the good times.
Right. And you gotta want it. You gotta want it.
It's your person too, man. So it's I always tell kids like this, just hard times in our business. We're professionals, so don't have any ego. If you need to go get a day job, go do that.
Yeah.
I used to when I got finished working on The Little Mermaid, I came back to San Diego and I was digging ditches with my father. I'm just saying I would do that because
it's just how it is.
Yeah. I never did a retail service job, so that might be a little bit different, soul sucking, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
There is no mountaintop without the valley, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or sell t-shirts, but definitely do your thing. Don't stop, man. Even it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yep.
I told my attorney told me once, Jerry, this comic strip is gonna take you about 30 years. Actually, he said something about 33 years for this to happen. I was just saying, oh damn, bro. Why do you say 33 years? Just say it's, why can't you just say it's never gonna happen? I told him that today, not today, the other day, but basically he was kind of right. I said, no, we got to go to, Vegas now because 30 years later, he was very accurate. I was really hella mad at you. You know what I mean? Being that honest, you know what I mean? I'm gonna say it on tape, but yeah, he was right. Danny Zucker. He's a brutally honest person.
Yeah. Jerry Lee Brice. Again, thank you so much.
All right, thank you guys. Bye.
We'll see you, brother. We'll see you on the next one. And with that, everybody, we're out.
Hey.